Say the start at the bottom of the meeting. Okay. There's 5 meetings start at the bottom.
That was once together. But that took a while because it was like
That's good, right, yeah.
interviews basically. So that's just the process.
What? Start the bottom. Do that. We're always fine with
Talk,
that.
you know.
Oh man.
And so it's like short, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
I don't know, we're on Brian, since Brenda already did her copy.
yeah.
I mean, I've been following it, but some of those I guess maybe that's how people feel like this is not this job. I still feel like it's
Well, they had 2 different teams they played, so when they had one team, they won, and the second game they lost.
Not just one game each for.
Right.
Okay, yes. It is 5:30, so the Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Brenda Carter,
Present.
Jake Lawson,
Here.
Tammy Day,
Here.
Jenna Hefka,
Here.
Sandy Wolf.
Present.
All 5 members are present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. We will begin with our annual budget hearing. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to welcome everyone to the budget hearing for the 21-22 school year. The purpose of this hearing is to give taxpayers the opportunity to provide support, opposition, criticism, and/or suggestions observing regarding the budget for 21-22. The hearing is for the budget only. Other items will not be discussed. There will be a review of budget items, and the board will provide an opportunity for public comment. The adoption of the budget will take place by vote during the board meeting and not at this meeting. The 21-22 general fund budget, when including all the cash reserve and estimated county treasurer balance, comes to $75,016,781.68. The district's budget of actual expenditures for 21-22, when excluding the cash reserve and estimated treasurer balance, is $53,616,534.28. This budget will allow the district to continue its current programs and goals for 21-22 without the need of using existing cash reserves or increase in overall tax levy. All the district's other funds represent adequate cash flow, with those total balances being budgeted as expenditures for 21-22. If someone could go ahead and put on the screen the notice of budget summary for the patrons.
clerk?
If you could.
Yes.
As you can see through this form, starting on the left are the actual disbursements and transfers from the previous year, the actual estimated disbursements and transfers for this year, and then what we're budgeting for 21-22. Of course, when you look at the actuals versus the budget, keep in mind that we are budgeting those cash reserve and treasurer balances in that number. And then on the far right would be the total tax requirements of the funds that we'll be taxing for. And that's at another hearing that we'll have after this one. But overall, we feel this is a good budget. We had a lengthy discussion at Finance and Facility Committee last month, and then a lengthy discussion at our budget workshop with the entire board, overall components of the budget. We're funding all of our programs adequately, keeping in mind of the ESSER's component that will be coming in this year as well as keeping in mind for some of the staff increases that we may need, one of them on the agenda later this evening, and then other issues that come up during a normal school year are budgeted in there. So I feel good about it. Our fiscal position is still strong, and I highly support this budget. At this moment, is there anybody in the public who would like to provide any comment or questions to the board?
About this specific topic or anything?
Yes. Well, with that being said, it does not look like we have anybody who wants to make comment. Madam President, I do recommend we close this hearing.
Okay, with that, we will close this hearing, and this budget hearing the meeting is adjourned. And you get to wait patiently till 5:45 when we open the next one. 5:40, excuse me.
There were some changes to state statute this year that made it so we have to have a budget hearing separate from a meeting where we approve the budget, separate from a meeting where we have a tax hearing, separate from when we approve the tax levy, and separate from any other meeting. So we are having 5 separate meetings this evening. Using elevator music to
I can start humming. Go ahead. I don't do that. Foiled again.
That's a good response.
Oh, they are.
So naturally on your own.
They definitely would be.
Yes, it says 5:40. 4 minutes, I guess.
There's no beard, but or what are bears with no beard? The rest of it, yeah.
He's the quartermaster for VHW, to have a house meeting.
Side of things, girls said they couldn't have played anymore when they lost to Patio South. So. I was like, they came out and played very well. Had a great weekend, Tuesday when they were having really fun to watch.
Okay, it is 5:40. The Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call, Dr. Thompson.
Brenda Carhart,
Present.
Jacob Lawson,
Here.
Tammy Day,
Here.
Jenna Hatfield,
Here.
Sandy Wolf.
Present.
All 5 members are present. We do have a quorum.
This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. 3.1 action items. Discuss, consider, and approve the 21-2022 Norfolk Public School budget. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. 21-22 budget has been reviewed by our Finance Facilities Committee. The entire board had a chance to review the budget at a public meeting on August 26. The public also had an opportunity for comment and input at our hearing. Therefore, I recommend a motion to approve the budget as presented for the 21-22 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 budget. I would second that motion.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Jenna. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to note that this is a strong budget that will allow us to continue providing outstanding educational opportunities for our students, while also addressing some of our most critical facility needs through ESSERS and building funds, as well as hopefully addressing some pay and compensation for our classified staff at a more appropriate level. In addition, it allows us to maintain our cash reserves at a 4-month operating expenses level, which is very critical because the U.S. Department of Education is notoriously slow at reimbursing us for expenses. And that is especially critical now when there's such an influx of ESSERS dollars coming into the district. The cash reserve allows us to flow that money through the system and cover those expenses until those dollars come.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. This will adjourn our Board of Education meeting.
How's it going?
These are nice. I might not sit here though.
Huh?
I might not sit here. I don't want to.
A little cramped.
She said, she doesn't say a lot. All right. That's it. Yeah. Very different. Motion's on the floor.
Okay, it's 5:45. The Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Brenda Carhart.
Present.
Jake Clausen.
Present.
Tammy Day.
Here.
Jenna Hatfield.
Here.
Sydney Bell here.
Present.
All 5 members are present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. We will now discuss, consider, and receive input on the 2021-2022 tax request hearing. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome to the tax request hearing for 21-22 fiscal year. The purpose of this hearing is to give the taxpayers the opportunity to provide support, opposition, criticism, or suggestions and observations regarding proposed tax request. The hearing is only for the items related to the tax request resolution. There will be a review of tax requests, and the board will provide the opportunity for public input. Official action and voting on the tax resolution for the school district will take place during the regular business meeting. This year's overall tax request for 21-22 is detailed in attachment document A1. So if you can pull that up. Yes, please. This request represents the essential needs of our district's general, special building funds, as well as the principal and interest obligations of our QC bonds. The district will no longer levy for the general obligation loans. The board is being mindful of our taxpayers when developing budgets and tax requests. So it is recommended to have the levy decrease of 0.47510, which would make our overall levy $1.08 for 21-22, compared to the 1.127510 in 2021. Even with a valuation increase, the overall property tax ask by the district this year is being reduced by approximately $461,000. With that being said, is there anybody from the public who would like to come and speak to the board on behalf of the tax request for 21-22? Madam President, I believe there is no public input at this point, so I recommend we close this hearing.
Okay, with that, we will close the tax hearing and adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned. Once again, by law, we can't start before our designated time, so now you have until 5:55.
This one is an old statute, will actually change the resolution. It's just an old statute. Well, this is it's more of an emphasis on what we're doing for last year, which in this case
What do you think of your
You're not staying the whole night.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm trying to avoid trying to stay. This is so fun. You get to
Okay, it is 5:55. So the Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Roll call, Dr. Thompson.
President Carter. President St. Plaza.
Here.
Tammy Day.
Here.
Jenna Hampton. Here. Sandy Moore.
Present.
All members are present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. 3.1, discuss, consider, and approve the 2021-2022 tax resolution. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Public notice was given at least 5 days in advance of the district's special public hearing called for the purpose of discussing and approving or modifying the district's tax request for 21-22 schools fiscal year for the general fund, bond fund, special building fund, qualified capital purpose undertaking fund, Madison County School District 59-2. Special public hearing was held before the Board of Education for the Madison County School District 59-2 at the time, date, and place announced in the notice published in a newspaper of general circulation, a copy of which notice and proof of publication of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A1, all as required by law. The board provided opportunity to receive comment, information, and evidence from persons in attendance at such special hearing, and the board, after having reviewed the district's tax request for each said fund, and after public consideration of the matter, has determined that the final tax request, as listed below, are necessary in order to carry out the functions of the district, as determined by the board for 21-22 fiscal year. I will now read the official resolution that the board would be approving. Now therefore, the governing body of Norfolk Public Schools resolves that the 21-22 property tax request be set at $28,994,946 for the general fund, $1,449,747 for the special building fund, and $869,848 for the qualified capital purpose undertaking fund. Total assessed value of property differs from last year's total assessed value by 2.46%. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year, when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 1.09589 for $100 of assessed value. The Norfolk Public Schools proposes that it adopt a property tax request that would cause its tax rate to be $1.08 per 100 of assessed value. Based on the proposed property tax request and the changes in other revenue, the total operating budget of Norfolk Public Schools will increase last year's budget by 2.51%. A copy of this resolution be certified and will be forwarded to the county clerk on or before October 13, 2021. With that being said, I recommend a motion to approve the 21-22 tax resolution as read.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax resolution. I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Brenda and a second by Tammy. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to note that with the budget that was approved and with this levy, we will be paying off all of our debt, including the 05 bonds, which is unheard of for a school district our size. We are very excited about line that will allow us to lower our levy by almost 5 cents. When you look back over the last 11 years, we will have lowered our levy by almost 24 cents. So that is real tax savings for our patrons.
And I would like to commend Dr. Robinson and Dr. Thompson for all of their hard work. They make it look really simple, but a lot of hard work has gone into this. And it's amazing that we have lowered our levy by that amount. Thank you, great job. Okay, please vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. And with that, we will adjourn the tax resolution part of the meeting. Meeting adjourned. We'll have 1 minute. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. The Norfolk Public School District's Board of Education meeting is called to order. Dr. Thompson, roll call.
For the last time, the same thing. Brenda Carhart. Jake Clausen.
Here.
Tammy Day.
Here.
Jenna Hasenville.
Here.
Sammy Bull.
Present.
All members are present. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. This is a legal meeting of the Board of Education as advertised by the means specified in board policy. A complete copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in the boardroom for your review. A copy of the agenda is available at the desk of the recording secretary. Please stand and join us as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And if any of you would like to start it, that would be great.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now going to do presentation special recognition, and we are going to begin with focus on the students. We have missed you guys. This is our favorite part of the meeting, and because of COVID, we didn't get to see you for a whole year, so we are so excited you are here. Angie Hausman, principal at Lincoln Montessori. Please introduce your students.
All right, we are so excited to be back too. We missed you guys too. So we are here to tell you about our Montessori program, and I have Kinley and Paisley, and they are going to start us off.
Good evening, my name is Kinley. My name is Paisley. We are here tonight to tell you about our Montessori school. In 1992, the Norfolk School District offered a public Montessori kindergarten class at Victory Elementary School. The program has grown and currently has kindergarten through 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary School. We currently have 8 classrooms that house 184 students. Dr. Maria Montessori believed that no human being is educated by another person. A truly educated individual continues learning from within by a natural curiosity and love of knowledge. Dr. Montessori felt the goal of education should be for the child to cultivate his or her own natural desire to learn. The Montessori method of education is a balance of structure and freedom that give children a strong basis for developing and learning skills that will take them into later education and adulthood. The teacher in a Montessori classroom facilitates learning and does not strive to be the focal point of the environment. Rather, the teacher observes the child's needs and directs the child toward the appropriate materials through which learning will be achieved. The classroom environment is designed to facilitate independent learning and exploration of the child. The materials for language, math, and culture studies further expand the child's understanding of the concepts and their movement towards abstraction. The Montessori materials provide manipulative and self-correcting work. Student responsibility is reached through individual work plans. The work plan is created by the teacher and is based on the needs of the student. The work plan is the learning plan for the student, allowing them to accomplish tasks and work in the areas of math, language, and cultural studies. The classroom is the learner's workplace. It is made up primarily of low open shelves used to house the Montessori materials. The materials are organized into the areas of language, culture studies, and math. The students sit together at tables, giving students the opportunity to cooperatively learn and interact. Rugs are available for students that choose to use the material to work on the floor. As you can see, we brought some of our Montessori friends to show you just a few of the jobs students experience at school across all of the grades. Please feel free to walk around and observe the students performing the jobs.
Thank you, ladies. Good job. All right, so our students will be showing the jobs that they do in their classrooms. And board, you're welcome to come around and see how Montessori jobs work and ask them about their jobs and the different materials that they have.
And that's why we're on school board, right there. Okay, we are now at the Award for Excellence. Angie Bauman. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, I get the honor of presenting our Award for Excellence, where we have a staff member that is honored for excelling in what they do and working with our students and our parents and being a leader in our district. And this evening, I will say a few words about her, but our award will be going to Kendra Marshall, who is guidance counselor at our Norfolk Senior High. Come on up, Kendra, we'll embarrass you a little bit. Kendra was nominated by our former NPS Foundation Director, Sarah Dittmer. And a few words that Sarah said about Mrs. Marshall is that she works hard for our NHS students every day. She's constantly looking for opportunities to support student success. She excels in her ability to communicate with students and family, in her ability to juggle multiple tasks, and in her ability to see the big picture and connect opportunities with students that would benefit them. She cares about the individual students and is their advocate to help them achieve their individual goals. Students and their families are very lucky to have Mrs. Kendra Marshall as a guidance counselor. So congratulations, Mrs. Marshall. Mr. Ibbenson, would you like to say anything?
Sure.
We'll put you on the spot.
I just have to say, Kendra is currently our guidance department head, and she takes on all the tasks and she takes them back to the rest of the crew, and they figure out how to make our big ideas happen. And sometimes that's not as easy as other times, but she always makes it happen, so it's awesome. She's also been the spearhead for our College Access Grant, which has provided a number of opportunities for our students to get the chance to see colleges, to apply for colleges, and to give them a chance to have that guidance to take the next step in their futures to get where they need to go. So, you do a good job. Thank you. You are a good employee.
Kendra, would you like to say anything? I told her I'd give her the opportunity, but she could respectfully decline if she wanted to.
Well, thank you so much. This is an honor to receive this award. It's always nice to be recognized for the work we do. And I couldn't do what I do without the support of the administration, school board, teachers at Norfolk Senior High, and of course the rest of the counseling staff. They're amazing to work with: Connie Ingram, Jose Hernandez, Alyssa Hoffman, Heather Moritz, and Sean Schultz. It truly is a blessing to be able to do what I love, and I'm proud to say that I'm a school counselor at Norfolk Public Schools.
So with this award, Kendra receives this lovely plaque. You're gonna have to hold that. Hy-Vee is a sponsor for our Award for Excellence, so they have donated a $50 gift card for her to use for her family or whatever she wants to get at Hy-Vee. And she also will get to visit with administration and will have $500 to spend in her building on a project or something that they have been wanting that they haven't been able to access yet. So all kinds of goodies. And here's a copy of your nomination, so you have that. Okay, again, congratulations.
I would just say thank you, Kendra, and all the guidance staff. As a parent who just had their last senior high student leave, it is amazing the amount of work, tasks, objectives that the guidance office keeps track of all the time. And it is such a service to our students that you provide that help them really truly reach those last, bits of success before they leave us here in the district. So thank you for your leadership on that team. I know that you do many, many wonderful things, so thank you very much. Congratulations.
I just would like to point out, I know Dr. Ippenson mentioned the college access grant and the work that Kendra does with that, but we temporarily lost funding for that for a few years, and Kendra went out and researched and found funding to temporarily fill that gap until we could apply for another grant. And I know she worked really hard on that, but was not willing to let that go for our students. She fought hard for that. So just for that alone, you deserve the award, and there are many other great things you do, so thank you.
And as a member of the foundation board also, I think from our transition from our previous executive director to our new one, I think one of the things that I stress the most is reach out to the guidance counselors at the high school. I've worked with Kendra and a couple other of them, and they're always so responsive. If you ask for any information or data, that was sent to me very efficiently, and the only thing I know is that they're so willing to always help in any way for their students or for the foundation so that we can help the students. And so I think that has made that transition for Callan that much easier, to know that she has a strong guidance team to go to for questions on how things have typically been done, or you have such a good pulse on what the students do and their tendencies. So when we're not seeing applicants for dual credit scholarships, when a scholarship goes out, application goes out on day one, you're reassuring everyone that the students will apply. It's just usually that last day to 2 days before the deadline. So thank you again for working so well with the foundation and helping Callan in that transition as well.
And Kendra and Lance, you may stay. You're welcome to stay, or you may step out.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We are to the public comments and communication. This is the time during the meeting when the public may request to address the board. If you wish to comment, we ask that you identify yourself, including your address, the name of the organization you represent, if you do, and the topic that you wish to address. Each individual's comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note that the board cannot discuss or act upon matters that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members will not respond to your comments or questions. If you wish to request that an item be placed on a future board agenda, you may contact the superintendent or her assistant during normal business hours. Also note that concerns related to school personnel need to be addressed to the superintendent using the approved district protocol. Please step forward.
Hi, I'm Cammie Riley in 2815 Pinnacle Drive, Norfolk. Thank you for letting me talk with you tonight. I respectfully am going to ask that each of you watch the September 3rd State Board of Education meeting that was held in La Vista. I believe you as board members, it's crucial for you to make yourself knowledgeable of what's going on within the NDE and the State Board of Education. Actions taken by the NDE and the State Board of Education directly affect all Nebraska schools, and it's your responsibility to know exactly what is going on and how it will affect the MPS students. You've heard from both sides of the argument for the health standards, and we appreciate you listening, and thank you for standing up against the State Board of Education health standards. However, the situation is far from over, and it has brought up some deeper problems within the NDE and the State Board of Education. Let me address one of the deeper problems that has come up. I'm going to be emailing you all of this information. I'll be emailing you a file that includes emails from State Board of Education member Deborah Neary that were obtained with Freedom of Information Act. These show how she manipulated the selection of the writers for the health standards and how she kept this information private as to manipulate other board members. She made sure that the writing team consisted of activists and only those supporting CSE and CRT. Please look through all these emails and decide if you think she has acted appropriately. A request has been made to the Attorney General for an investigation, but as of now, I would just ask you to do your own research with the information that I have provided to you. You as a board should be keeping close track of what's going on with the NDE. If there is corruption or improper activities going on, we expect that you be aware of those and how that's going to affect our local school system. You have a decision to make. Are you going to trust the NDE and the State Board of Education and continue to support them? You've already chosen not to follow the health standards, and if you're not in agreement with the health standards, then maybe we need to ask ourselves a question. You know, why did they feel that it was important for the health standards to show pornographic images and discuss anal and oral sex? Remember that you're teaching this to 5th graders, and they have little siblings, and they're gonna find out. Kids talk, kids play. Ask yourself about the reasoning that they would have had for suggesting some of these things to be put in there. It's going to allow more pornographic addictions, more rape, incest, and it's going to allow it to make it easier for children for sex trafficking. It does not prevent teen pregnancies or sexual abuse or stop sex trafficking. Those, the true statistics are out there, you just have to find them. You also need to ask yourself, if you don't trust the health standards, should you be trusting the NDE with anything else? Maybe you should take a fresh look with a different set of eyes at all the standards. Remember that Commissioner Bluestead himself said there was no critical race theory in the health standards, and that was proven to be a lie. How can we trust him? Schools all over the state are finding CRT in their classrooms, and do you want that in Norfolk? This is the question you need to be prepared to answer. Your decisions need to be based off of facts and not hearsay that most likely would be biased, and I don't expect you to make a decision based on the NDD's competency and honesty off of my or anyone else's input. This is for each of you as an individual to decide. Each board member's decision should be based off of having all of the facts, and that's why I'm requesting that you actually go back to the beginning of the health standards discussions and the state board meetings that began in April. They're easy to access on the educationni.gov website. Are they long meetings? Yes. Do we expect you to watch them? Yes. I attended 3 of the 5 meetings, and I watched the other 2 completely. Hundreds of other parents and grandparents have also been willing to do this to ensure that our children are getting the best education possible. And I don't believe it's too much to ask or expect for you to take the time to be informed as we are. You are elected by the people and are expected to do your very best for the MPS children. To summarize tonight, I'm asking that each of you watch all 5 board meetings in their entirety, review all of Deborah and Yuri's emails, review some other information compiled by Matt Ennis that exposes some NDE things, and he also would be in Pierce on Thursday night the 23rd if you would like to go hear that in person. Then I'm asking that you schedule a town hall meeting, something like that type of a meeting, where you can have an open dialogue with the public and discuss concerns and situations. And then, at the following regular board meeting, I would request you make a statement on that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward?
All right. My name's Shane Graham, 111 Linwood Lane in Norfolk. I'm the dad of a sophomore and kindergartner, both of the Norfolk public school systems. The hot topic as of late, as you all know, has been the health standards. And I'd like to thank the 4 of you that voted yay to not adopt the standards put forth by the NDE board. I think we're all tired of talking about the health standards, and anything that controversial shouldn't be in our schools. We need to focus on the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies, and science. And I'm not talking about the crazy made of science, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you think we're doing well in these categories, then I suggest you go on Facebook, look at some of the posts on St. Madison County Exchange, or friend some of the NPS students. Read their posts. I think you'd be shocked at what you see. the grammar, or the lack thereof. I guarantee your brain will hurt and you feel very confused when you're done. And not every young kid or adult is this way or the same, but there are a lot out there that could use another English class or 12, in my opinion. But now on to the main reason why I'm here tonight. And Dr. Robinson, you should already be aware of this, as you were CC'd on the email from Dr. Robinson in my response to my email. The topic I'm talking about is the use of, or should I say the improper use of pronouns within the schools. The they, them, and theirs. I'm not exactly sure where this started, the use of they, them, and theirs, but I imagine it was social media because it definitely wasn't science. The definition from the Oxford Languages of they is used to refer to two or more people, things previously mentioned or easily identified. The two men could get life sentences if they are convicted. Them, used as an object of a verb or preposition to refer to two or more people, or things previously mentioned or easily identified. I bathed the kids and read them stories. Theirs, used to refer to a thing or things belonging to or associated with two or more people, or things previously mentioned. They think everything is theirs. You may have noticed a theme with these words, that they all involve two or more people, not a single person. Imagine trying to read a kid's book. Little Johnny rode his bike to the store. But wait, little Johnny says that he is not a he or a she, but he's a they, them, or theirs. So little Johnny rode theirs bike to the store? How about, did you hear that they went to the baseball game last weekend? Well, who went to the baseball game? Billy went. Yeah, who else? No one else, just Billy. But I thought you said they. See how it's confusing? Or, Mary went to this is a hard one. Mary went to them house after school because she didn't feel like playing at the park with them friends. I think Mary went to her house after school because she didn't feel like playing at the park with her friends. Sounds a lot better. I think I made my point in the English department, so now on to science or biologies. I've never heard of an animal that is something other than a male or female, or research on anything scientific, or do research on anything scientific studies involving humans, and the results are typically reported as male and female. There's men's sports and women's sports, and that's another touchy subject as of late, and I've never heard of a transgender squirrel. Why? Because there's only two genders. He, she, him, her, his, hers. You can cut the dots off a bowl, but you still won't get milk out of it. Now, the first 2 days of school, the 12th and 13th, Dr. Ippenson met with each class, the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, for a total of 8 meetings at the Johnny Carson Theater. He introduced himself as Dr. Ippenson. That isn't just what my son told me occurred, but Dr. Ippenson confirmed it himself in an email to myself and CC Dr. Robinson on it, as I previously mentioned. He further went on to say that by using students' preferred pronouns, they can save lives. At the beginning of the email, he stated that pronoun usage has nothing to do with CRT or CSE. But wait, isn't part of CSE the usage of hormone blockers to change your sex? Or that a person's biological sex or gender identify may or may not differ? And isn't that where he, him, she, her, they, them, they is being driven from? So it is part of CSE. No? You would think out of all the classes taught at MPS that English teachers and biology teachers would have the biggest issue with improper usage of the English language. But when it comes to find out, two of my son's teachers had them fill out a get to know you info card that asked for their preferred pronouns. That was his English class and his biology class. How can an English teacher grade my child on English language if we're calling an individual they or them, as opposed to he or she or him or her? Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Shane. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to the information and discussion items. 6.1, Finance and Facilities Report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Total amount for the 2021 end of fiscal year claims, which are approved last month, are listed below. It was $300,000 total, and that was dollars that we put into depreciation from some unused budgets at the building level and also at the district level. The total amount of claims to be approved in the consent agenda for the month of September 2021 by specific fund are listed below. This also includes the activity fund claims for the month of August 2021. All these claims were reviewed earlier today by our Finance Facility Committee. The end of the 2021 fiscal year claim amount was approved at our last board meeting, and those details are attached for public review. The annual audit for 2021 fiscal year has already started with the gathering of financial information and records for our auditors. Schumacher, Schmeckel, Brockhouse, and Hurley will be conducting the audit, and they are planning to be on site next week, going through all the details and testing the different funds and different aspects of a comprehensive district audit. They should be wrapped up by the early October, and we will have a draft with our Finance Facility Committee, hopefully by October 13th, and then final product for the board at the end of October for approval. I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. We have teaching and learning report. Beth Nelson.
Thank you, Madam President. This year we've been able to meet with our curriculum groups, and we're pretty excited about that. And we're trying to make up some time from lost from last year. We managed a vertical 612 ELA meeting, and the reason why those are important is because we can review what our expectations are in vertical alignment on progressing to the next grade, and we've just not even been able to have those good conversations in so long. And so it's quite refreshing, and we're hoping to, keep moving forward and having this positive momentum in our work. We've also received the new English language arts standards that were adopted by the State Board of Education. We need to do a first review of that internally and determine just how different those are and if any changes need to occur based on that. And lastly then, we are also in the midst of our fall map assessment window, and soon we will be done doing that, and buildings will have their data to look at so they can set goals for the school year the right way. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Nelson. Student programs report. Mary Lord.
Thank you, Madam President. Our nurses will begin their annual health screening this month. Students in grades pre-K 4 and 7 and 10 are grades that are screened annually. English language learner staff have been screening students based on home language surveys filled out by all new students to determine if they qualify for our ELL program. This is determined by the ELPA screener. Special education staff and special education district staff will meet on September 22nd to review assessment scores and grade level instructional needs. Through the academic year, our special education leadership team will be reviewing and updating our district procedures. The Nebraska Council of School Administrators, NASIS, again is offering the web series through the school year focusing on special education. They are offered through Zoom and recorded. I will be participating in this series throughout the school year. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lohr. Student services report. Eric Wilson.
Thank you, Madam President. With the students and staff back at school, we have a lot of back-to-school meetings and trainings that need to be completed. All staff who work with students are required to attend 1 hour of suicide prevention training at the beginning of the school year. This year, we're able to partner with Region 4 Behavioral Health to provide QPR, question, persuade, report training. They offer small group training sessions at each of our school buildings for our staff to attend. Our district technology team met last week to evaluate Chromebook rollout, standardized testing needs, and future needs for our district. The district safety team met to go over emergency operation plans, sub-safety binders, and to develop plans to meet our goals for the year. We are working to solidify our reunification process and create a hazard mitigation walkthrough form. We are also in the process of doing our yearly district safety audit. And finally, our MTSS PBIS team, along with all the building principals, completed 2 days of Train the Trainer EduClimber training. This was an extremely valuable opportunity for our building leaders to dive into how EduClimber works, to provide them with the tools necessary to train their staff. A portion of our October PD day will be set aside for getting our teachers exposed to what EduClimber can do for us. I'll answer the question.
So was the EduClimber as exciting as you hoped?
It was. Again, it's big. But once you get your fingers into it, you understand where you're clicking, how to get to the things you want, to run the right reports. There's a lot of information there. It's very good.
Is it pretty intuitive?
It is. And there's, we get a little closer, we'll be sharing more information on that with the board as well. So.
I'd love to see that in study sessions sometime.
What is a hazard mitigation walkthrough? Why do you create one of those? Or what is it?
So with our safety audit, we've got like all of our safety plans we do to make sure we're doing our fire drills. We've got our safety teams that if we had to relocate students out of the building, how to get those students back with their parents. So we put together a hazard mitigation team just to do a safety walkthrough, just kind of a checklist to see are there things out in the hallways that shouldn't be there, are hazardous materials put away, are exits blocked, are there pieces of concrete that are broken, anything that would open us up to any sort of safety hazard for students or staff.
For example, once in a while, we'll start storing stuff in front of electrical panels and not clear access. If you have space, you fill it in schools. This is what you do. But some space we can't fill it. So we have to periodically remind people we can't put stuff there. Or if you have cleaning supplies, you need to have it in the right spot that's ventilated appropriately, those kinds of things. So, but you just have to do that anyway. Just kind of double check stuff.
Keep reminding people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Human Resources and Accreditation, Angie Bauman.
Thank you, Madam President. To go along with what Mrs. Nelson said, we were excited to do some training with our new teachers. Half of our new NPS teachers received training on the NPS instructional model on September 9th, and the other half will receive their training on September 27th. They are working hard to learn the essential concepts and strategies that will enhance learning and instruction in their classroom. So it was great to see them all together working on that. And as far as our substitutes go, our search continues. We're always looking for additional teacher and para substitutes, and our application process is available all year long. We don't just hire substitute teachers and paras at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year. And for student teachers this year, we currently have 9 student teachers in our district, K-12, and I've received some very positive feedback from our administrators about their start to the year. So we always try to hang on to them if we have positions for them as we move through the year. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Bauman. Next, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. If you would take a look at the attachment, you will see that our enrollment has increased slightly this year. Our September of 2020 student enrollment for PK through 12 was 4,437 students. And our enrollment on September 1st of this year was 4,480 students, which is an increase of 43 students from September of last year to this year. That is likely due to a decrease in the amount of students who are being homeschooled. If you take a look at the chart on the right, you will see that a large majority of the students who chose to homeschool last year due to the pandemic have returned to school this year. Although not all of them have, there are some that are still very concerned about the pandemic. I would also note, just another piece of information, that our kindergarten enrollment this year started at about the same level as it has been for the last several years. It was slightly above our average, which is 321 and a half students with 325. So I feel like we're maybe starting to make that swing back up in enrollment. We obviously can't say that there's a trend until we have a couple of years data, but it does look promising. And then I was not able to put this into the agenda, but I would like to give a COVID update. Our return to in-person learning team met this afternoon at 4 o'clock. That's why I couldn't get it in here yet. to review information given to us by the Elkhorn Logan Valley Public Health Department. They have indicated that obviously there is an increase in cases within the state of Nebraska, but they have also indicated that is true in our area as well. And so they would like us to consider some additional steps. Most specifically, they would like us to isolate students who demonstrate symptoms of COVID. So if a student has any one of the following symptoms: new cough, new onset of shortness of breath, or new loss or change in taste of smell, or two of the following: a fever, chills, muscle aches, headache, sore throat, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or fatigue, then they would be taken to an isolation room and sent home. From there, it's kind of up to the parents. The student could return if they have a negative test from a physician or a doctor with an alternative diagnosis. Or if they test positive, then they need to stay home for 10 days. Or if they just don't get tested, then they're presumed positive and they will stay home for 10 days. Our committee did review these recommendations, and they feel strongly that we should support this and move forward. We talked about waiting until Wednesday so that we can get information out to parents tomorrow when they are prepared for that change. We also talked about the symptom screenings that we did last year, and our recommendation is that we do not implement that. If you remember, 1/1000 of 1% is the percentage of screenings that resulted in someone being sent home. And so we just feel like that is not a very effective use of our time or our resources. Instead, teachers are pretty in tune to whether a student is feeling well, if they look like they've got fever, if they're coughing. If they do, they will send them to the nurse, and then the nurse would do a symptom screening and make an educated decision about whether the child should be sent home. So this would really just make one simple change to our addendum from last month, actually. We would add a number 4 that says students and staff who develop symptoms but have no known exposure are to quarantine for 10 days unless they test negative or get an alternative diagnosis from a doctor. A pretty simple change. It fits within what we've been doing, but I suspect we'll see tweaks, throughout the year as guidance changes from Elkhorn Logan Valley or the CDC or the Department of Health and Human Services, and we know more about the Delta variant, or can't remember what the next one is that's coming, but we just have to be very flexible. I would also like to note that throughout the beginning of the year, we have kind of had 2 sets of data. We've had positive results coming from Elkhorn Logan Valley that are confirmed, and then we've had some parents call in and tell us that their students are positive. And those numbers have not necessarily matched, which has kind of, not felt quite right. So we are working with Elkhorn Logan Valley now, where all of our numbers will be reported to them, and we'll have one list that is consistent. That will result in a one-time increase, probably this Wednesday, in the number of cases you see. But that's not because there's been a large increase, it's just because we have figured out how to kind of mesh that data so it's more accurate and consistent. And when that comes out, unless something changes drastically in the next 2 days, all buildings are still within acceptable levels, so you won't see anybody that's like jumping to masks or jumping to, remote learning or anything like that. Any questions?
So you've been watching the data, now you'll just officially get it merged and reported. Okay, thank you.
So, if I understand this right, this will take into effect the home tests that are not, that don't go through. If you do a home test, you don't have to report it anywhere?
Right, if a parent or a child takes a home test, they do not have to report it to Elkhorn Logan Valley. But if they report it to us, we will be now sharing that information with Elkhorn Logan so that there's consistency in the numbers that we all have.
Could there be double I mean, did they share with you and Elkhorn Valley? And
No, because we include names and it's very confidential.
Oh,
They can only use it for those purposes, but we know who we're talking about.
Okay, so there's no problem. Do you have to get permission from the parents?
Because it is a pandemic and it is a highly communicable disease.
I really appreciate you just staying on top of all this. It's like a moving target and you're always so disciplined about following the data and being informed and keeping us up to date. So thank you for that. I appreciate you just continuing to keep us, where we should be. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. We are to committee reports. We'll start with the Facilities and Finance Committee report. Brenda Carhart.
The committee met at noon today. The claims for the month of September and the end of the fiscal year claims for August, as well as activity claims for August, were reviewed. The committee then reviewed the following items: final review of the budget and the tax request hearings for 21-22, updates on current district projects like Grant, Lincoln, the construction we have going on, final review of classified compensation pay increase, review of the audit timeline, which Dr. Robinson's already talked about, review of the ESSER 3 and the monies and how they spent, and discussion of Norfolk Public Transportation, discussions at school side with them. So the next meeting will be on Monday, October 11th at noon again. Any questions?
Thank you, Brenda. Policy Committee report. Jenna Hatfield.
Thank you, Madam President. The Policy Committee met on August 27, 2021 to review board policies 5001 through 5012 related to students. The committee is recommending that these policies are reaffirmed as only minor non-substantive changes have been made to address grammar issues. A lot of these policies are ones that we review on a yearly basis, so they are kept pretty up to date and accurate.
Thank you, Jenna. Activities Committee report. Jake Clausen.
Thank you, Madam President. The Activities Committee met at noon on August 23rd. The primary purpose of this meeting was to discuss the potential addition of girls wrestling as a pilot activity in 2021-2022. The Activities Committee recommended that this proposal be added to the board retreat agenda where it was approved unanimously. Mr. Irwin and Mr. Gray really did a great job of laying out really the case and the pretty substantial interest that there is and all of the benefits that will add to Norfolk Public Schools. So they did really a great job. Other discussion items included the introduction of our new activities directors, which are John Irwin, Kurt Lammers, and Tyler Veronic, and also general updates from those directors. It was also noted that our equity and diversity presentation to the NSAA went very well. The NSAA directors were impressed by the efforts we are taking to ensure that everyone within NPS feels safe, welcome, and valued. And again, kudos to Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Robinson, right? Dr. Robinson, thank you. So they also obviously did a great job. So thanks for that. Our next Activities Committee meeting is scheduled for noon on October 4th.
Thank you, Jake. The minutes of the committee meetings are the minutes of September 7th, student health and nurses meetings are attached for you. The consent agenda, 8.1 minutes of those previous meetings, August 9th and August 26th board retreat are attached. Bless you. Personnel, contract approval, there is none. And resignations, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I do have one resignation for your consideration, but thankfully it is for the end of this school year. Debbie Comerford, our kindergarten teacher at Grant Elementary, will be retiring after 21 years of service to NPS. So we thank her for those many years of service, but also thank her for giving us plenty of notice so that we will have first choice in replacing a very veteran and experienced teacher.
That is outstanding that she has given us that opportunity to get the best kindergarten teacher to replace a great kindergarten teacher we're losing. That's awesome. Claims. Attached are the claims for the month of September. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. The claims, as stated earlier, were reviewed earlier today. by our Finance Facility Committee. There is one conflict statement for this month that will need to be read before you do your official vote.
I will. Out of abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest, and I am abstaining from voting on claim 568 for the month of September in the consent agenda for this meeting. I have signed and filled this written disclosure with the Secretary of the Board. It is my intent to vote on all other remaining items listed on the consent agenda. My vote on the remainder of the consent items should not be taken as a vote one way or the other on the item which I have identified or any other of the matters set forth therein or related thereto.
I would make a motion to approve the September claims as presented.
It's a consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
got so excited. Nobody else we talk anymore.
It's all together, Jake. Just change your motion.
Still excited.
Okay. Jake has made a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? I'll second. We have a motion by Jake and a second by Tammy. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
I had to reboot during an earlier meeting, so it may not work. I opened the voting, but you can't see it.
No, we can't see it.
Brenda Farmer,
Yes.
Jake Lawson,
Yes.
Tammy Day,
Yes.
Jenna Hatfield,
Yes.
Sandy Wolf.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. While Mary reboots and gets things ready.
Excuse me, the IT director says you guys must.
We messed up?
I think if you guys go out and come back in the meeting,
Okay.
because she had to be out and she's back in.
And we didn't. We just kept rolling. Okay, we will do that and we will take a 7-minute break. We'll come back at 7:05. Just close up.
Mine restarted.
How are you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, and thank you for offering, yes. Isn't tonight's an exceptionally long night? We were. Thank you, but it's all right. Super fun. Great. And it's just, just do whatever it's gonna be a holiday favorite. I know that's new this year. That's kind of. It's just so fun to see them. Yeah. It was nice. It is. That was nice. Yeah, okay, so the oldest one is, she's in Oh, middle school, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And she's actually the way back.
Yeah.
The middle one is she's my sister. Oh, yeah. I apologize. That's fine. I was here.
That's a good idea. She was sassy.
Like that.
We do. Yeah. But you do get through. You do. You do. You've been solitary. And your mom got through. Your sister.
She did barely. She barely made it.
That's right.
Ready? Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you guys are. All right, yeah. You just start. Remember correctly, that last year, yeah.
Bad yourself? It's getting like half. Huh?
And then she went.
Reinforcement.
Oh, I bet.
Right. You know what? There's something. Because I want to say. Kid asking me, make sure we get it.
No, okay, your son plays the tuba.
Very strict. Good, buddy. It's easy for a while.
Yeah, make copies. Let me have somebody to help you. Just what it is. Nobody left the door.
Okay, it is 7:05, so we are coming back to our meeting. I would like to thank all of you for your patience tonight. It was just kind of an interesting governmental meeting that we don't usually have, but thank you for your patience. We are to 9.1, discuss, consider, and take action to interview and appoint a new member to the Norfolk Public School Board of Education. A seat on the MPS Board of Education is open due to the resignation of Bruce Mitchell, who moved out of the district. This open position was advertised in the Norfolk Daily News and on our MPS website. 14 candidates submitted applications, and 4 of those were chosen to be interviewed tonight. The order of interviews were determined by random drawing and is listed below. First is Joe Roberts, then Leanne Whithelm, Joe Matika, and Lenore Fuhr. Each candidate will be asked the same questions. At the completion of interviews, sitting board members will discuss the candidate's qualities and attributes, focusing on strengths right here in front of all of you. Once the discussion is complete, the board president will ask for nominations to fill the empty board seat. Nominations may be made by any board member, and several nominations may be made before a vote. If more than one candidate is nominated, the candidate that receives the majority of votes will be chosen and appointed to the seat. Each school board member may cast only one vote for a nominated candidate. Voting will occur via roll call due to limitations of our electronic voting system, SPARK. Ballots are not allowed for board appointments. The motion will be, I make a motion to appoint the candidate with the majority of votes to fill the open seat on the MPS Board of Education. If no candidate receives a majority vote, which is 3, the board will discuss candidates further and go through the nomination and voting process again until the candidate receives the majority vote of 3 or until the board has voted 5 times. If the board fails to fill a vacancy on the board after 5 votes, the vacancy will be filled by election at a special election. It is important to note the cost of this special election will be paid in full by Norfolk Public Schools. Once a candidate is selected via board or special election, he or she will be seated at our next regularly scheduled board meeting and will remain seated until the next general election, which is November 2022. Okay, with that, we will begin with Dr. Thompson.
Welcome, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you.
I too would like to thank you for your interest in serving on the Norfolk Public School Board of Education. As Sandy mentioned, each board member will be asked the same questions for consistency's sake. Do you have any questions before we begin?
I do not think so.
Then I am just going to ask you to start by telling us about the qualifications that you would bring to our school board.
Okay, my whole life's work has been in education. I've been a teacher, facilitator, a coach, an elementary principal, a college instructor online and in person, a college supervisor of student teachers, a consultant and a mentor. And most of my time has been spent right here in Norfolk Public Schools. I had the privilege of working with every elementary school in some capacity, either as an itinerant ELL teacher or else as a principal, except for Monroe Elementary, which is no longer here. I've had the opportunity to work with many wonderful educators and the families that are in each of those schools and the students. So I have a wide range of knowledge about the dynamics of those schools and what they bring. Tonight, watching Montessori was like coming home because I was a part of Victory Elementary. In fact, Woodland Park and Victory were my first jobs. And then I was part of the team that helped choose Montessori as the program that we wanted to fill the vacancy of that District 87 school. As was my husband, actually. So it was kind of like, wow, how did you do that? So we just felt so at home. And I'm very proud of where that program is at this point. It's been wonderful to watch that. Our own son went through Montessori. I guess that's the other part. I've had 4 children of our own that have gone through the Norfolk Public School System. Each of them have had a wide range of needs that are very different from each other. They built some wonderful relationships with their teachers and other instructional staff that really inspired them to choose what they are doing now. So that's very rewarding for us. I guess those are the reasons that I feel that I would be qualified for this position. I also think that along with that, I have an understanding of what it's like to be on the other side of the board. So understanding that the board is setting policy and then having the opportunity to take that policy and then put it into action. Always remembering that the board gets to set the vision, and I think that's important. One of the things that I always felt like that I did as an elementary principal was to always keep students first whenever I was making decisions. And I think that's very important. I think that's why I really enjoy watching students come to board meetings. I think that reminds you of your purpose and why you're here, because it's easy to get lost in all the other stuff and not remember the kids. I think I'll stop there. I could probably go on.
Thank you. I'm not sure why I have to follow your question because it always seems redundant, but it's a little twist on the same idea. What is unique about your background or experience, and how do you see those things positively impacting NPS students, teachers, and families if you were appointed to serve on the board?
I guess what's unique about my background is that I have had the opportunity to work in so many elementary schools. I have worked hard to build teams, and I think not only just within the communities and the families of those schools, but also with other administrators. And I think that's the teamwork part is huge, and that also developing those relationships is big. To me, just being able to work within the different schools, and sometimes at the same time with totally different, when I worked with Montessori and Grant Elementary, for example, totally different kinds of programs, totally different kinds of backgrounds of families, and different needs. And it was interesting and challenging to try to balance those, and I think that brings a different flavor to my perspective.
I know the answers to some of these questions, so I also am getting them. Do you have students currently enrolled at NPS, or have you been involved with NPS? And would you like to tell us a positive or negative situation?
I do not currently have students involved in NPS. I did have students of my own involved in NPS, like I had spoken about before. I've had lots of very positive experiences. We have some wonderful, amazing teachers and instructors. And I think that's important for you to hear. I know you have the award for excellence, so you get to see that. But there are a lot of people that are working for students. In particular, I think of Michael, who is here with us today too. He's been influenced by so many different people and continued to have wonderful instructors that have reached out to him. He's helped with coaching and been invited back to do that time and time again. He loves working with, in particular, right now, Coach Long has reached out to him, Coach Gray. At this time, it's been a challenge for Michael because post-COVID, and so he's having to take a little sabbatical from some of those coaching opportunities, but it hasn't stopped those instructors from still reaching out to him as well. And so I think, I don't think that Michael's experience is unique or different from what our teachers and staff do for all of our students. I'm very proud to have been a part of Norfolk Public Schools. And when you have that sense of that you helped develop something that's good and positive, you feel very loyal to that, and you want to continue to see that other students have those opportunities that your own students have had, your own children have had.
Thank you.
Hi.
I would like to know what previous management or board experience do you have that you feel may have best prepared you for a position on our Board of Education?
Well, management, and being an elementary administrator, that has given me lots of opportunities to manage or work with people and work with teams. I've also been on Faith through Lutheran board, so I've worked on other boards as well. Right now, I'm part of the Read Aloud board as well, and I also do some volunteer work for a project called Project Dragonfly, where we work with getting cards to people who have lost a child, and it's just kind of a cool little project that is out there. I get the state of Mississippi, so it's just kind of an interesting process, and I guess I've had the opportunity then to work with different groups of people.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
How should the board go about learning what the students, parents, staff, and patrons in the district are thinking?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that communication is a huge part for any organization. And I think having opportunities to listen for the schools, I know as an administrator, I loved having board members come into our buildings and just kind of see what we were doing. That's easy for me to do as a retired person, so I think that would be an area that I would continue to like to offer. I think just being open for conversation is important, but being very careful about things that you do or don't share, of course. But I think that I'm kind of a person that people like to share things with or just tell things to. I'm not a gossipy kind of person, so people usually recognize that I'm not going to share it with anyone. And so they'll end up telling me things that, or asking me things that maybe they wouldn't other people. I don't know if that really answered your question or not.
It does.
Okay.
It does. Thank you.
Last but not least, briefly describe your reasons for seeking this position and what your vision for Norfolk Public Schools is for the next 5 years.
Like I said before, I really feel strongly about my loyalty to Norfolk Public Schools. They took a chance on me when I was a rookie administrator in 1989, and I feel like it's my opportunity to give back to that. It really, I guess when I got here, I wasn't really sure how long I would stay in Norfolk, but they really gave me the opportunity to grow and develop in my career, and I really put down roots here, and I feel like I want to give back to the community and to NPS. I think my vision is that we want to have opportunities, quality opportunities like we have had for all students, and I want that to continue. So I think that would be my focus, that we have accessible education for all of our students.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the board?
I think that probably sums up everything that I have. Again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and to have this conversation. And I know that you'll make a good decision because you have done a good job with all of the requirements that you have. You know your team, you know what you need to fill that position, you know what will complement you the best, so you can move forward and do the good work that you've already been doing. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Joe.
Next up, we have Leanne Whithelm. Welcome, Leanne.
Chair.
No, it's on.
All right. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity to inform you of why I would like to be a candidate chosen to fill this current vacancy on the NPS board. In looking around this room, I can say that I've had the pleasure of working with all of you in one capacity or another, from educator, administrator, to association leader, to negotiations committee, to even dance team sponsor, yay, to most recently my fellow NPS Foundation board members, Dick and Jenna. So instead of sharing things that you can just read off my resume that was submitted with my application, I'd like to take the rest of my time here to share a few examples of why I want to continue being a part of Norfolk Public Schools through the participation on this board. When I was teaching at the junior high as a staff member, MAP scores were shared with the staff and it was revealed that the special education students were not meeting benchmark scores. You might say, well, that's pretty understandable with the fact that students with disabilities struggle in school, but we knew we could do better for the students to reach their full potential. Frank Hubenstride, special education director at the time, could have just gathered up the troops and lectured us on how we could step it up and improve our students' scores, and these scores that were important to the district as a whole, but no, he didn't do that. He took the 6 of us, his leadership team, to meet at central office at 7 a.m. We had no idea what or where we were going when we loaded up in that van. We ended up at Ponca State Park in the lodge that he rented for the day. As he shut the door, he told us not to get too comfortable because we were not leaving until we all stepped out of our individual boxes, middle school, junior high, senior high, and came up with an innovative plan for our entire district for our SPED students. Thus, at 5:00 p.m. that day, the Norfolk Public Schools Achievement Center concept was born. We had a challenge, we brainstormed solutions, we came up with a result that not only assisted the special education students in the district, but all students in the district. We had many outside schools come to our Achievement Center to see what they could do for their schools. I will forever be proud of the part that I played in this addition to Norfolk Public School. In working with Mike Hart, my building principal at the time, I was often asked to confer with him on challenges that the junior high was facing. Knowing how passionate I was in certain issues, he would sit me down and ask me, Leanne, is this a ditch you want to die in today? And if my answer was, yeah, today it is, he would sit me down in his office for as long as it took to problem solve until we could both live with the solution on what was best course for our students. This taught me that it is okay to disagree and that solutions are not quick and they're not easy. But with long conversations and collaboration, we can accomplish so much together. In my many roles through the years as an education advocate, I was appointed to many committees and positions that took my time. When asked to run for the state and later national office of Nebraska State Education Association and National Education Association, I came to Dr. Thompson and asked her if the school district had any issues with my plans. Again, instead of a lecture on my responsibilities as a teacher at Norfolk Junior High, we problem solved on how I could still do my job in Norfolk, but also bring Norfolk's voice to state and national leaders in Lincoln and later Washington, D.C. I will always respect her for that conversation on how to set priorities. You sometimes have to let things go before adding new commitments to your plate. These stories I share with you because in reading the board principles outlined in the brochure I was given with my application, I have personally experienced and been a part as an educator at Norfolk Public Schools, education advocacy, team focus, leadership team development, positive relationships, open communications, team decision-making, and planning and setting goals and accountability. I would like to continue using these guiding principles as a Norfolk Public School member in making sure that Norfolk is a place where every student has a safe environment to learn, caring adults that have their backs, and continue to be a great public school for every student. Thanks.
Leanne, can you tell us about some of the qualifications that you will bring to the district?
I think qualifications is my experience as an educator in the district. It wouldn't be a big learning curve for me to follow a lot of things sitting in your board meeting. I go, oh, yep, know that, yep, know that. And also the leadership roles I've got to experience as part of Norfolk Public Schools, being on the special education leadership team with Frank and Mary. Also at the junior high, I was on many leadership committees there. Also with my education association experience, being on many boards there, and being picked for different committees through the state and national levels. I'm currently on the Norfolk Area Community Foundation Board and now currently on the Norfolk Public Schools Foundation Board, and all those things have given me leadership roles to help me grow and experience being a part of a team and making decisions that better make things happen for whatever organization I'm in.
Okay, we'll see if you have anything else you'd like to add to this. What is unique about your background and experience, and how do you see those things positively impacting students, teachers, and families if you were to serve on the board?
I think, again, just with my experience as part of Norfolk Public Schools, I was taught in Humphrey for 18 years, and my last 19 years was at the junior high here. And I just think that knowing some of the background of a lot of things, again, it wouldn't be a big learning curve for me to come in and start with day one and on my boots on the ground, and I could be part of any committee and know what's going on.
Leanne, do you have students currently enrolled at MPS, or how have you been involved with MPS, and have you had any positive or negative situations you would like to share?
I like to answer this question that biologically I have no students, and I've never had any students at Norfolk Public Schools. But every year when I taught, the 19 years I was here, I had many students that I call my kids. And some still email me today, and when I see them, they still recognize me, and some have even come and asked for advice from me. I've written resumes for a lot of them. I just feel that kind of like when you adopt a kid, you're not biologically their mother, but then they're yours. And I just think every year that when you have kids, when you're a teacher, that they are your kids.
Thank you.
Hello.
Sorry, Jenna?
What previous management experience or board experience do you have that you feel has best prepared you for a position on the Board of Education?
Okay, again, I've had a lot of experience on boards with the two foundation boards in Norfolk. I also spent probably 25 years on different boards for the NSEA, the Nebraska State Education Association, and I was also on the National Education Board for 6 years. In my positions there, I was a board member and also vice president of the state, and I had to have many management and run many meetings and be on many committees there. So I feel that I have experience being on board and knowing what it takes to do your homework and be prepared for the meetings.
Thank you.
Hi, Leanne. How should the board go about learning what the students, parents, staff, and patrons in the district are thinking?
Well, I kind of think you started with when you have open comments at your board meetings. I mean, that's great. I mean, that people can come in and say, oh, I feel okay to come in and voice my opinion, and even though you can't go in a conversation with them, they know that they can come in and voice their opinion. I believe in transparency, which I think this board has always had. I've never felt in the dark when, as a teacher or an educational advocate, coming and asking Dr. Robinson or Dr. Thompson a question, and they were always very transparent with me and open communication. So I think to continue this, where the patrons of the community can come in and voice their opinion. I'm sure they send emails to you and get phone calls. And they're not turned away as we don't agree with this idea or anything, but everybody's listened to. People that they need to know that they're respected, even though opinions might differ. But I think that respectfulness and transparency is real big.
Thank you.
Briefly describe
describe your reasons for seeking this position and what is your vision for MPS in the next 5 years?
Okay, this is my 5th year. I can't believe it's been my 5th year of being retired. It's insane. I think my first couple of years out, I was just kind of learning what, I had some family issues with my sister's death, and I think I've kind of grown from that, and now being my 5th year out, I'm on different boards in the community, do community service. I volunteer 2 days a week at Lincoln Montessori, so it's great to see the kids over there doing a lot of the activities that I'm sitting on the floor with them doing. And so, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. Just so blank.
Briefly describe your reasons for seeking
okay.
this position and what your vision is.
Thank you. And so I feel like now that I've been out enough and I'm doing the voluntary work, and it's making me miss the kids and not the meetings, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Not the meetings or the paperwork, sorry. But working with the kids, you know, I really miss that, and that's great that Mrs. Mather is letting me have that opportunity to do that. I've seen so many great things with Norfolk Public Schools. You have such a great foundation here that I don't want us to go stagnant and go rest on our laurels and go, well, okay, we've done this great things, we have this career academy, and this is great, this is great. But I always see that every year that there's a growing that's going on with Norfolk Public Schools. You know, new kids, new opportunities, and I just see that with that partnership with the community businesses and private industries. And again, this is my special ed background, kind of back here talking about, to recognize trade school graduates just as well as four-year college graduates, that that's a priority, and why I want to stay with Norfolk Public Schools to show how that's growing with the career academies, and just the different opportunities for all kids to grow in this school district, to reach their potential. And another thing that I really respect, and again, it was elaborated at this meeting with paying off the loans and things, the bonds. And I just think that the school district, you know, being in the NSA, traveling around the state, you know, you hear different schools in trouble or different things like that, and they can't hire teachers because of the financial responsibilities. I just think the school district is such a good steward for the citizens' tax dollars in Norfolk, and you just make such good, sound fiduciary responsibilities and practices that I want to be a part of knowing that this is a great school district that is cognizant of tax dollars and the money that goes into it and spends it in the right way to better serve the students in Norfolk.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the board?
Again, like Joe, I just want to thank for the opportunity to do this. Kind of wasn't planning on this year, but when it came up and I saw the paper, I thought, you know what the heck, you know, try this. And again, I just respect everybody at this table for doing the work that they do, and I'd really like to be a part of this and continue my educational advocacy.
Thank you, Leanne. Joe and Tika.
Thank you so much for having time that I could come and talk to you. We appreciate this opportunity. The story is told about people that were healed. They were 10, and after they were healed, they were so rejoicing because for once they were clean. They could mix and go and stay with their families. But one of them came back and said, I want to say thank you. 23 years ago, I made the decision to leave the country of Malawi and come to the United States. A decision that most of you, your ancestors made that decision. With me, I did make that decision. Brought my family over here. I've been in Norfolk since. My kids have been in the public schools, and we have just been blessed tremendously. My son graduated after playing football and so many other sports. We started with Briarcliff. From there, he decided to join the United States Marines. He served our country for 7 years. He got out of there and went to be in the Army National Guard for 2 years. As if that is not enough, he decided to go back to college and went to Boise State. He graduated this year. I'm so proud of him. My daughter also graduated from Norfolk Public Schools. Went to UNL, graduated. She went to DC. She's now working a very good job in DC area. We are so proud and so thankful for the tremendous work that Norfolk Schools, Public Schools has done. The second thing is, God was telling me that, you know, where you came from, you can do something. You can help other people. By giving them a quality education that your kids have gotten. And I came to Norfolk Public Schools and I said, I've never opened a school, but I've got this vision God is giving me. I remember Bob Hastings says, what can we do? I said, everything and anything that you can think about opening a school. 6 years ago, I opened a school known as Norfolk Schools in Malawi. I deliberately chose the name Norfolk because I live in Norfolk, and Norfolk has given us tremendous opportunities, both individual and as a family. We want to give back to Norfolk, and especially Norfolk Public Schools. I had no intention to go on the board. But when this opportunity opened up, you know, it's like being on a bench and you let other people play. And somehow the coach is saying, he's calling my number. I really felt like God is calling my number and being part of Norfolk Board of Directors, just to give back for the tremendous things that God has given us through Norfolk Public Schools and the community of Norfolk. As if that is not enough. The things that happened last year, the suspension of Norfolk to be in the games, spoke to me greatly. And it was like, you got to do something. I think Norfolk would make that statement to the state that Norfolk is inclusive. It's not exclusive. We have a lot that want to give back to Norfolk. And that's why I feel like my number has been called right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Could you start by telling us about the qualifications that you would bring to this board?
Like I said, I went to Nebraska Christian College, got my bachelor's, and went to Wayne State College, got in my master's, went to University of South Dakota in Birmingham, got my doctorate. But that's not what you're looking for. I think the board is looking for somebody who has got the experience, somebody who can look at things from a different angle, somebody who is going to bring a lot on the board and to make that board to be wide and show that the board is there to work for everybody. I have been on boards. I still work on several boards. I've been on NeighborWorks. Currently on Midtown Health Center. I've been board chair there. I have my own board of Norfolk Schools in Malawi, which I chair. I have a board here in the United States in Norfolk, but I also have a board in Malawi. So I got two boards that I chair. I think there is a lot that Norfolk Public Schools board is going to gain by making me part of this.
Thank you. What do you think is unique about your background and experience, and how will that positively impact the students, teachers, and families of NPS if you are appointed to the board?
I think each one of us is unique, and I think I bring the uniqueness of having to uproot my family from a different country to come into Norfolk Public Schools and being part of the community. Like I said, we have been blessed tremendously through the Norfolk Public Schools, and I think that is going to be a dimension that Norfolk Public Schools is going to, look at it, that it's something that is going to help in so many ways now.
Joe, do you have students currently enrolled at NPS? Or how have you been involved with NPS? And have you had any positive or negative situations you'd like to share?
Sandy, I don't have a kid in the schools now, but I've had two kids that have gone through the, both our kids have gone through the program, and I cannot say enough about Norfolk Public Schools. You hear a lot of people talking about the United States program. Education is not up to par. Yes, we may not be the greatest, but I tell you, we have got one of the best here in Norfolk. And, that goes through studying other, countries as well as, the country that I came from, but also experiencing the one that we have got here in Norfolk. And I think I just can go on and on to, brag about my kids and how they've come out, and it's because of Norfolk Public Schools.
Good evening. What previous management experience or board experience do you have that you feel has best prepared you for a position on our Board of Education?
So like I said, I came from Malawi. I served on other boards there. And then I got here in the United States. I've served on several boards, like I mentioned, NeighborWorks and Midtown Health Center, and been on other boards, for the church and, other, places as well. Currently, I've got two boards of my own that I have to run on a daily basis. But like I said, I just feel like I think I can add some significance to Norfolk Public Schools.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jay.
How should the board go about learning what the students, parents, staff, and patrons in the district are thinking?
So I was involved in when Norfolk had to change the, can't remember what's the technical term, whereby this is going to be elementary, this is going to be, middle school, and so on and so forth. I found that to be very inclusive, and the collaboration that was there between, the Norfolk administration, the board, as well as the parents whose kids were in the school at the time, and my kids happened to be in the school at the time. And I think that sort of collaboration is key, and communication to making it stronger.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Briefly describe the reasons for seeking this position, and what is your vision for MPS in the next 5 years?
You know, at the end of the day, I think the board is going to make that decision and vote. And I'm sure I can see, heads here which are, more than capable to make that decision. And if John Mitika is not one of them, I'll be okay with that. But I want to tell you that my inclusion of this into this board is going to benefit in so many ways. Like I said, not just the education qualification, which you have a lot, just looking around you. But when you look at somebody coming from a different country, somebody who is coming from the private sector, and somebody who has benefited through his family and the kids going through the program, I think that's one thing that you cannot just overlook. And when I look at the vision in 5 years, I look at Norfolk to be, the board that is going to be inclusive, the board that is going to grant opportunities to students, and to be proud of the students that are graduating from this place, just like I am proud of my own. You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the board?
So for more than 20 years, I've been going to the juvenile center. I started going there with the ministry that was going there, but I continue to do that. And it's something that you don't choose, but I've made a lot of kids from Norfolk Public Schools there. And just to tell them that they can change their lives and get back to school and be in the community. Over the 20 years that I've been doing that, it's been so gratifying to find these kids, making a U-turn and being part of the school and telling me that they've graduated and they've changed. To me, that has been quite something that I look back that, I've given back, through juvenile center, but these are the same kids that, are from Norfolk.
Thank you, Joe. Be sure to take a water with you if you like.
I know, I've got a scratch. Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Leonore, can I ask, is it Leonore? Is that how you say it? Or
I get called so many different ways. I pretty much answered everything, but you can call me Leonore.
Leonore, yes. Leonore's next.
Thank you. I don't know how to follow those three. You have a tough night ahead of you, and I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to follow along with such wonderful candidates. I really appreciate it. I am Leonore Fuhr. I am a Norfolk resident now, almost by accident. Norfolk was a stop for me for college, and I had bigger and better plans to continue on, right? And I decided, my husband and I at the time, decided what better place to raise our family than in Norfolk. And part of that reasoning was Norfolk Public Schools. I was a first generation high school graduate, first generation college student for my family, and coming from a family that is new to a new country overall, and better yet to a new state. When we arrived, one of the very first things that was said to me is cherish and appreciate your education. And I don't take that lightly. And I also raise my children to appreciate the education that they receive every day through Norfolk Public Schools, even more so through a pandemic. I appreciate it as well. One of the other things that I was raised very passionately to do is to serve my community. My parents were a wonderful example of what it's like to serve outside of yourself, to think outside of your own person and how to best serve those around you. And that's something that I hope I also continue to demonstrate to my own children. And what better way to demonstrate that than to be involved in their school and their education, which will lead them to success, because nothing should prevent success, just like we have it all over our school. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Leonard. Would you please start by telling us about the qualifications that you would bring to the school board?
Yes, I believe I have more professional and personal experience that I really pushed me to want to apply for this position. My experience has always been to work with and to advocate for the well-being of all children. That has taken me not only through our community, through our county, and actually throughout our whole state, and I appreciate that work so very much. I work to build a lot of collaboration and partnerships because we can't do it alone. And even in our community, I see the tremendous amount of partnerships and collaborating that Norfolk Public Schools does. And I don't know if we celebrate that enough, to be honest. And so I hope to continue to help the school board continue to build that foundation and those partnerships and collaborating and communication with those in our community and those we serve. I also am an active member of the community, often probably a little too much. I would probably say some things that are I'm really proud to be part of are the Norfolk Area Diversity Council, the Noon Optimists, Parent-to-Parent Network, CASA of Northeast Nebraska, just to name a few, and I also serve on a few committees for Norfolk Public Schools.
Thank you, Leonor. A little twist on the same question, as you have heard me say 4 times. I should think of a better question. I think it is once again. But what is unique about your background and experience, and how do you see those things positively impacting students, staff, teachers, if you were to be appointed to the board?
Absolutely. I think I get to bring a very diverse perspective to the board. I have that lived experience voice that I can bring and share with the board and our school overall. I strongly believe in representation of those we serve, and I know that I can serve as a voice or at least a connection to a large part of our minority students and families. I am bilingual. I speak fluent Spanish, and I hope I can use that skill set as well to connect to some of the families that we have in our school system, to also encourage them to have that connection with our board. A lot of times we don't always feel empowered or maybe able to approach those in leadership, and I hope that I can serve as a sort of liaison with those that don't maybe have the language, that have the language barrier that keeps them from connecting with our board further.
Leonor, do you have students currently enrolled at NPS, or how have you been involved with NPS? Have you had any positive or negative situations you'd like to share?
Yes, well, apart from serving on a few committees, the COVID Planning Committee, the Equity and Diversity Committee, heavily involved in the Woodland Park PTO. I'm actually missing their meeting right now, so sorry to Mr. Strong, wherever if he's at the meeting, for not being there tonight. I do have 3 kiddos in Norfolk Public Schools, ranging from preschool up to 6th grade, and up until recently, we also had 3 foster kiddos, all in elementary and preschool as well. So we have experienced 4 schools all at once at the same time.
Thank you.
previous management experience or board experience do you have that you feel has best prepared you for a position on our Board of Education?
Sure. So as part of boards, I've been on a multitude of boards across our community, including Parent to Parent. Formerly, I was a board member for Midtown Health Center, and I also was the executive director for Norfolk Family Coalition for quite a few years, and managed a nonprofit board through there. And just overall, I've also been serving on different committees at the school, at community level organizations, currently serving as the vice chair for the Norfolk Area Diversity Council and the co-chair for the PTO.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hi, Leonor. How should the board go about learning what the students, parents, staff, and patrons in the district are thinking?
Communication. Communication is absolutely key. I don't think there's any better way to find out what the needs are from than those that we serve. And so I think having a clear, consistent opportunities for people to be able to connect with us is critical for any board. And so, like we had tonight, giving that opportunity for patrons to be able to come and share and listen and be felt like and leave feeling like they've been heard is a huge step that I always hope we continue to have. And then just offering small opportunities throughout our day-to-day to give people that feeling of knowing that they're important, that they're valued, they're respected, and they're heard. And of course, language, just from my personal experience, assuring that language is not a barrier and offering clear and consistent communication and opportunities.
Thank you.
Okay, this will be briefly describe your reasons for seeking this position and what is your vision for Norfolk Public Schools in the next 5 years.
All good things, because I have about 12 plus years with a kiddo to go with Norfolk Public Schools, and we have no plans or intention of moving out of Norfolk. So we will be around quite some time, and there's nothing more than I would love than for Norfolk Public Schools to continue to succeed and for all students to continue to succeed. My reasoning for applying for this board position is to really try to assure that my position on the board is a positive impact for all Norfolk Public School students and families. And in turn, I hope that my involvement will then inspire other parents to also be further involved in their child's education and learning, and especially when there's opportunities for leadership.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the board?
I would just want to, as a parent and a community member, to just reiterate my thanks to you as board members. It's been a really tough couple of years. There's been many decisions that you have had to make that I'm sure were not easy. Many decisions you probably lost sleep for, and I don't know if you have been shown the appreciation that you really deserve. And so just from a parent and a personal standpoint, I really want to take the time to thank you for that, because I don't think we get the opportunity to do so. And I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be pooled into such a fantastic group of candidates that you've had tonight. It's truly an honor to be here amongst them. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonor. Now,
Well, I just want to say that I am really glad I don't have a vote.
holy moly. Thank you all for coming. You are all so well spoken. Such a heart to serve. I have no idea how we are going to choose, because you are all amazing. I mean, I wish we could have all four of you, because we had gaps in our board and we had places that we were looking for, and wow. So now's the time. We're right here. We are going to sit and discuss and then nominate. So
Here we go. Okay, do you want me to start? Okay. I mean, I really do not know where to start. I mean, so many wonderful things that I felt like we had gaps in our board are right there in front of us. Just, we have such qualified, amazing people. Honestly, Tammy and I had a challenge going from 14 to 4. And so as you can see, these 4 people are outstanding. And I don't know what criteria we are going to, which your heart is calling you, or dice. We have dice. Fantastic. I mean, I loved what each person said. I loved it when Joe said each one is unique, and that is very true. Each person will bring something so amazing. I mean, Leanne and Joe, all of their experience at the school is something that we lost when we lost Wade, because he had that experience that, I mean, we really need somebody who sees the other side, I feel like, because he had so much that he offered, but Leonore and Joe add so much as well. So, okay, now somebody else.
I would maybe say thanks to all 4 of you having sat in that same seat not that long ago. I just know you did such a much better job than I did. And I was really in awe of the very thoughtful answers that you gave, and just a really great job you did. All 4 of you would be excellent. I agree, Sandy, that I think that each brings pretty unique skills. And needed skills. I mean, I don't think we can go wrong in any way. You know, I think that the experience that Joe Roberts brings to the entire paradigm of what we look at is awfully hard for me to ignore. I don't think that lessens the value of the other 3 as much as if I had to pick something to put it over the top. I think Joe's depth and breadth also of experience probably puts her over a little over the top for me, and I would probably nominate her if given the chance.
We're not quite there, but
Yes.
you'll get that chance. We need to each speak, whether you want to or not. I'm going to make you, Brenda. You're up.
Can they go? I'm up.
Okay. Jenna.
I'm just trying to put all my thoughts into like a cohesive, I don't know, way to express them, I guess. I mean, I'm just kind of overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge and passion presented to us this evening, and experience. If we could just meld you all into one person, then it would be perfect. Because yeah, we definitely need someone with some history and background in education. There are several times during meetings that I wish I had, you know, I only know as much about education as from being a parent to a kindergartner. So very short amount of time. You know, I know that I want what's best for our students, but I don't know what it's like to also be a teacher. And in order to know what's best for our students, we have to look at our educators as well. So I can definitely appreciate that aspect from a few of our candidates, but I also believe that we need to represent all of our students and the different, I mean, that's what's so great about being a public school system is we have such a wide, diverse, you know, students with different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and I want to make sure that we are, when making decisions, viewing those decisions from all different viewpoints and not just looking at it from where we're used to looking at. And so I think that we also have some great candidates that bring that perspective. And then just in general, I think just the passion and the love for the public school system. You can sign up to be on a board and you can show up to the meetings, but if you don't truly have a passion for what you're doing, then showing up to the meetings doesn't do a lot. And so I think, especially nowadays, it's hard to find people who have a true passion and are willing to give that time and effort to the councils, boards, and committees they serve on. So to see so much passion here this evening too, I think is great. And that is where I just am so torn, because I just have exclamation marks all over my papers of here and there of just different amazing things. And so, yeah, I need to hear someone else talk for a little bit so I can keep organizing my thoughts.
Well, I think you bring up some great points, Jen, and I think that is what makes the decision so difficult. Is I mean, I kind of had the same sort of thing. You know, it's like yes,
yeah,
and then somebody else would say something different, like yes, and it's like it's just really, really difficult. And I agree. I think those unique perspectives that each one of them brings makes me feel great that no bad choice exists. You know, 4 excellent choices exist. And that gets us absolutely no further to making that choice. But I mean, it's a good feeling, I think, to have such qualified people wanting to advocate for our students within the district and our staff and our teachers and everyone else. So, you know, again, I just agree, and I think you're right when you talk about those perspectives. I think that they're crucial, and that should not be weighed, you know, heavier or lighter than anything, as much as just really, I think it is a crucial part of the decision.
Well, and to hear Leanne volunteers 2 days a week. She goes to Montessori school 2 days a week.
Yeah.
That's hard to serve. I mean, that was way before there was a school board application out here. This isn't, you know, it's just amazing.
You're just gonna wake me up, aren't you, Brenda?
Well, I'm trying to learn from you guys. You guys have been helping me much.
We're all singing everyone's great song.
I know, yeah. So you're back.
Well, you know, I can't keep my mouth shut much longer. So, no, I think all that has been said is absolutely true. What a wonderful problem to be faced with, that we have too many good candidates. I think, you know, it was hard to get to 4, and you can see why, and now we have to get from 4 to 1. The nice part is every 2 years there's an election. So I would welcome anyone who is not appointed tonight, because there will be 3 of you, to please consider running. And don't be afraid of a campaign. Don't be afraid to put your name on the ballot. I am saying that as one of the people who will also probably be on the ballot, perhaps. So, and Jake, sorry, buddy. But I would encourage you to consider this as a step forward toward that decision if, in fact, you're not appointed. So, all of that said, which you already know, I have thought about this a lot because I had to look through them all with Sandy and bring 4 forward. I also believe, you know, that it's part of our job to do the very best job we can to fill the gaps that we have among our expertise and backgrounds and abilities and perspectives. You know, when I thought about what we were missing, clearly Bob Waite leaving left a gap in our sort of historical knowledge about what it does mean to be on the other side, to be an administrator, to be a teacher, to be in a classroom. I learned a lot from Bob over the years, and I'm grateful for that because I think it makes me a better board member. I also am very aware that we have a gap, you know, as far as our student population and our community. So I am very grateful that we have candidates who bring a different perspective and have the lived experience of someone who's part of that community. So this is what makes it hard for me because which one, you know, rises to the top at this moment, and still not sure I'm entirely clear on that. So if you ever spoke to my husband, I just think out loud. So here we go. Here's what I'm thinking. I agree with Jake that the astounding breadth and depth of knowledge that Joe Roberts brings, it would be an amazing addition. It would scratch that sort of Bob Waite itch, that, you know, that gap that's been there. And Joe is truly a passionate person for education, as is Leanne, who also has a breadth of experience with many years of teaching and advocacy in more of a government role or a leadership sort of advocacy role. So I think those are great. I think Joe Mantika and Leonor bring, you know, that different perspective to the board that we don't currently have. I do think Leonor also brings the perspective of working with
community members and families and students in a different way. If you look at her work history that was submitted, most of her work has been with underrepresented community members. And I really appreciated, some of her comments about having that lived experience and reflecting back to the community the makeup of our constituents. I do think it's important that we, I can't remember how you said it, Leonor, but represent in our makeup who we represent in the community. And I also think, the fact that you're bilingual is a really interesting addition that I would say most of us here don't have that capability. So in thinking about how to fill the gaps, because whenever I serve on a board or work with an organization, it's not just getting a warm body in the seat, it's how do you fill the gaps so that you can make the best decisions possible. And I think Leonor even referenced that in her application, saying something like, research shows that having a diverse board results in better outcomes, whatever that diversity looks like. If you have all the same people, even if they're really great people, like if we were all 6 Joe Roberts people, we wouldn't be making the best decisions, or all 6 Jake Clausen people, right? Because we'd only bring one perspective and one set of gifts. So I know this has probably not been helpful at all, Brenda, and I'm sorry about that, but it's helping me to say these words out loud. So I'm gonna let you talk now.
Well, I guess my perspective is I didn't work with Bob Waite, so I guess I don't have that, what he brought that we're missing. I didn't know that we were missing that. So when I see all this experience, I guess that wasn't a trigger for me. If anything, I thought those, with all that background into teaching and things, that every board meeting would become a walk down memory lane. Like back in 1991 when I taught, we did it this way. And I think that education is so much different today in 2021 than it even was in 19, because we went through a pandemic. We've learned a lot from that. I think every year educating our students is a different ballgame. I mean, I know the principles stay the same, but we need to be flexible. We need to be open to change. So saying that, I was looking for more in their interviews, how much they talked about students, how much they talked about the kids, because that's why we're here. So that's, I guess, all the background didn't mean as much to me, because I was like, what do you want to do for the kids going forward? That's why I picked the question I did, and so that's how I was judging mine. That's what I was listening for. Right or wrong?
And as a result of that, do you have any suggestions or
Nobody else has given any, so.
Jake did? Look at Jake. Step right out there and said,
Well,
For better or for worse.
the two in my head that I had as my top 2 are now mixed up differently after hearing everyone's input. So I don't know that anyone's input helped.
Well, this is where we start by doing nominations. And we do nominations. Unless you want to keep talking, but I don't know that anybody's helping anybody.
Can I just have like a couple of minutes?
Sure. Sure. Do you need
like silence, or do you
No,
want us to
I don't
talk?
know. I mean, if it's awkward for all the rest of you, I just need to look back through my notes really quick.
And if we're just raising differences and traits, I mean, Leonor does have children in school. We do have people with children in school, so I don't know that that's a deal breaker for me in one way or the other, because I do think it is helpful if you have people whose kids are not in school anymore. You kind of gain a little distance sometimes from being in the midst, but there is something nice about having, people who are also a parent of a student. As a former recently parent of a student, my kids are gone now, but that is one thing, I guess, that's different between the 4 candidates. So
another thing we didn't really talk about, but time commitment. This is a pretty intense time commitment. So think in your head, are all of our candidates, do you feel they have the time to come to the meetings and get off work and do all of those things? Because you all know what it's like to get off work and get here on time, and You know, it's a lot. So that's, I mean, there's just so many things to think about right now. And we get to do it all in front of all of you, which is even harder. You know, back in the day, they'd go sit in a room and we didn't even know how they do it. And then they come out and go, what? You won. But we have no winners and losers. Like Tammy said, man, if you were here and you just thought that this was your thing, please, you know, give our public a chance to vote on you, because for years we would run uncontested. Even the last election, there were only 4 people that ran for 3 seats. We had 14 applications for 1 seat, and 4 phenomenal people for 1 seat. So, yeah, please do it. It's kind of fun to have your name in the yard for a while, you know. Not really. Okay, with that, I am going to open nominations. Nominations are open.
Jen, I don't know if we gave you enough time.
Yeah, you guys are good, sorry.
Again, we're quickly saying what I think we've all said. There are no bad candidates here, but I would nominate Joe Roberts for the open position.
I will nominate Leanne Whithelm for the open position.
I will nominate Leonore here for the open position.
Are there any more nominations to come before the board? Nominations are closed. We will now vote. We will vote by roll call vote.
You said the name of the person you're voting
But before that, we need to have a motion. The motion is written for you. Would somebody like to make that motion?
Can we discuss it all?
After the motion.
I make a motion to appoint the candidate who received the most votes as a member of the NPS Board of Education.
I need a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Jake, or Jenna, motion by Jenna and a second by Jake. Is there discussion? When do you call for discussion?
Okay, question for you, Sandy, why did you nominate?
I think Leanne has the time. I think she has the heart to serve. She came to our budget hearing. I mean, I would have came to our budget hearing. I had to come to our budget hearing. I'm kidding you, Bill Robinson. That is one of my favorite times. I think that the fact that she served on the negotiations committee for several years, I mean, she came to a million school board meetings because she was the Kim at the time, or Kimberly. So, you know, I just think that she's used to our school board and she knows what she's getting into. And I think the fact that she volunteers at Montessori school means a lot to me, that she goes there on her own right now twice a week.
I'll say why I nominated Leonore. She has a background in early childhood education. Her formal education is in that, and her work has been with immigrant families. She's currently with the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, working with them, their child well-being initiatives. I believe she has spent a lot of her personal and professional life helping underrepresented populations connect and see themselves reflected back in the work that she does, whether it's as a board member or a PTO leader or an executive director of the Norfolk Family Coalition. And I struggle because I see, the value that each of these candidates bring. But to me, as a public school, I really think it's important that we have people whose experiences and backgrounds
can help us move forward and can help us move forward with all of our constituents in the best way possible. So that was why I nominated her. You know that I could say wonderful things about everyone else, which is the caveat I think we have to feel like we have to add, because it's just so hard. And having been appointed myself initially a million years ago, it's a weird situation. You're all sitting there like listening, but the nice thing to know is that, you know, and I think it's true of every decision this board makes, we really work hard to figure out what is in the very best interest of our students. And just because we have to make one direction for a decision doesn't mean that there weren't also other good options, but we had to choose one to move forward. So having been in your seat before, I know it's kind of a weird situation, but I believe it works out, and there are many more opportunities to serve, as I hopefully have encouraged you to consider.
Well said by both of you. I totally agree. I nominated Joe. I think I didn't know Bob either, but I feel in my 6 months on the board that the learning curve, while manageable, is significant. And in my personal opinion, I know I'm still in the curve. Everybody else is ahead of me, and I am so thankful for that. And I think, in my mind, the two biggest things we have to fill are, I think the diversity side of things, which you stated very, very well, Tammy, and the experience factor. And I think Joe's experience probably is that just slight thing that makes me feel like we will be a more well-rounded board in terms of tackling the things that we need to tackle. Frankly, if Leonore was appointed, I feel like we would be a more well-rounded board also. I mean, I just do. So I said my caveat in a different way, Tammy, than you did. So, but I think, you know, again, if being forced to choose, like we often are, to me, that Joe brings that just little extra something that I feel like could really help us move forward in the manner that we all want to. We have big decisions every month, sometimes twice a month. And I think that's it. I think the knowledge that's required for this position is something I think that surprised me. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn so much that I have over the last 6 months. And I think somebody who doesn't have to learn as much as I did would be a great asset.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We have discussion unless anybody else would like to discuss. Jenna, want to say something?
So after hearing many more kind of sides of, you know, each nomination, and us talking about our gaps that we need to currently fill, I'm trying to kind of also think, what are our biggest obstacles coming forward in the near future? You know, just off the top of our head that we're already kind of dealing with. COVID, eventually again, the health standards, and inclusion and diversity are current ones that we are every meeting talking about. So not looking at, you know, gaps that we feel like we need to fill, but who maybe brings the most help when we look at these ongoing issues and then, you know, moving forward from those. I'm starting to lean towards Leonore because inclusion and diversity is something that we are actively having to battle. Not that Leanne or Joe wouldn't have good input and perspective on those, but Leonore has lived it and lives it every day. So then I, you know, go, okay, well there's that. So then COVID. Well, I think, you know, we have perspective of, you know, a parent side of things with Leonore, having children in the school system during both the year of COVID, and help and dealing with, you know, maybe some of those educational gaps that we have seen our students have from virtual learning. and bringing that perspective to the table. And then the final one then being, what am I driving for? What's the third one? Yeah, health standards. So in that one, I think, I mean, there's still a lot more, I feel like, information to dive into with that. But just looking at, like I said, the most upcoming obstacles that we face, how are we going to best basically create the best army to tackle those issues that we know are going to be constantly facing us, at least in the next, year to 2 years to come, because we do have to remember this is an appointed position. Not to say that that person won't continue to then run for the position after that, but if we're looking at the appointment, it is a shorter term. So what do we need in that amount of time?
Do you want to offer anything, Brenda?
No, but as I listened to you guys, I was reminded or thought about that they'll be on the board about 15 months is all. So now I'm leaning towards, maybe I'm talking backwards, but leaning towards the experience, because you do have to hit the ground running with this job, because you don't have 3 or 4 years to learn it. You only have 15 months, so it's a short time to be on this board before you can decide if you want to go run again. So if that's the case, I'm going to go, I'm leaning towards Joe or Woodham, just because they do have the experience for this position.
Any more discussion before we vote? Everybody gets one vote. We have
Just one more thing.
Yes.
Just one more thing we need to keep in mind. Because Leanne is on the foundation board, if she's elected, there'll be 4, and one of us are going to step down. So, because that'll be too many on the foundation. So I want you guys to be aware of that if she makes it, one of us has to go.
I went. I was on the foundation board when you guys all came on board. I went. Did you know that?
I thought you were there just because you're the board representative, though.
It doesn't matter. It's still a quorum. Yeah. So I did that. Just for perspective. Okay.
So just to be clear, we can't vote for everybody.
No, just to be clear, we get one vote. You guys, and I love the way we have discussed this. I mean, I sat at a board meeting with another board, and they were not kind like we are. I mean, they got pretty. So I appreciate that we have openly discussed this, and now let's call for a vote. Dr. Thompson.
Okay, so I will say each of your names, and you will say the person that you are voting for. Brenda Carter.
Leanne Wildham.
Jake Clausen.
Joe Roberts.
Tammy Day.
Leonard Fuhrer.
Jenna Hacker.
Leonard Fuhrer.
Sandy Moore.
Leanne Woodham. We do not have a quorum. That's vote number 1. We can go to 5. So now we are going to discuss more and sway each other. Sway each other. Or we need to not vote again until we do nominations again. So, do you want to discuss or nominate again? Dr. Thompson, did you want to add some wisdom?
Well, I normally don't speak, but I just want to say there are lots of other components to being a board member. We haven't talked about the budget and finance and facilities and following all the laws. I mean, there are a lot of other components. We have some issues that are right in front of us, but it is a big picture.
And committee commitments, right away you get assigned to committees, so there's extra time involved. I do agree that it's a pretty short commitment right now, because you have until November, but not really. Because when you are on the board, you have to put your name in by next February. I thought if you were sitting on the board, it's February. Yeah.
Oh,
Incumbents are
yes, so
February, I mean,
right.
incumbent. So you would have to, you're technically, I mean, you're on the board through the year, but you have to decide by February to put your name in right away. Just let me know. I don't know how that's swinging.
That's a good thing to know.
It's a good thing to know. Yeah, just adding a little bit to that. Let's see. Okay, I like that Leanne, her background was in, let me look. Leanne wants to help me. Special needs students. Special education, which I think is a strong, special education. I think that's a huge thing.
Well, if we're, you know, we have to get down, so we're down to 3, so maybe we could get to 2 this time. Because we don't want to go 5 rounds, people, because we don't want to pay for a special election. But I would say, looking at the 3 candidates we just voted on, while they all bring amazing background, passion, and experience, I do think, you know, I agree with Jake that Joe has a wider breadth of experience perhaps than, you know, with education in particular, with them all 3 candidates really, having served as a teacher and an administrator, in addition having community engagement experiences with different nonprofits, serving on boards and committees. If you looked at her application, she is a highly decorated administrator as well, many awards and accolades, which I think just reflects on the caliber of her as a candidate. Leanne definitely has the passion and preparation. I was on negotiations sitting across the table from Leanne on the other side, and she is a doer and is an amazing community servant, as you can see from all the things that she has done. It is not an easy position to be with an NSEA or anything that has to do with advocacy and legislation and all of those things, so I do admire that. I just perhaps feel at this moment in time, maybe we could have the best of both worlds if Joe Roberts was on the school board and Leanne stayed on the foundation board, and then we get both of them in some capacity. But again, we're really splitting hairs at this point, so that was just one little take that I had been reflecting on. I'll just keep talking.
All right, I'll happily jump in.
Okay, keep talking, then I'll talk again.
There's one thing that I did want to say that really hit home for me about that Leonore said, and I think that it's about inspiring and maybe therefore empowering parents to also consider leadership positions within our schools, and I think that that's a critical thing for us to cultivate to the best of our abilities. And I think that while I'm not here to comment if we do or don't, as much as just, I think she's right, and that's a critical thing for us to always consider. And if there's an ability, if one of these great candidates has the ability to bring more people to the table, that's probably a really great thing for this board and for the future of the district at large. So I do appreciate that perspective that she brought, and I think all 3 of them probably can do that, to be honest with you. So I think that you know, I still like the rationale we've all brought to the table. I don't know if that helps in any way. I was trying to help Tammy out a little bit by filling a little time there, but you know, I guess the last thing I would say is I do think that as we look at the great things that this board has accomplished, I think the constant has been that there's been a good mix of experience and, you know, newcomers or different perspectives to the board. And I think if we're missing something right now, it could be that long-term NPS experience, which again is why I would give the nod to the candidate I've already mentioned multiple times. So I probably don't have anything else to add really, but thank you.
You're just giving Jenna some thinking time.
Yeah, I was.
No, I was gonna talk about that as well, Jake, but Leonore, I just think is very well qualified in many ways with her work and experience and advocacy, working with underrepresented communities. And she, brings the perspective and lived experience of a quarter of our students and families in this district that none of us have. Which is very different than being understanding or compassionate or, wanting to be open to helping everyone. I do think it's different when you can bring that personal experience with you. So to me, that's a bonus to her already very distinguished qualifications and work background that she brings. And lots of connection with NPS, as the other two that were on the nominations just now. But maybe a little different twist, more in those collaborative committees, the COVID return to school, a PTO group is really a group of volunteers trying to do its best for their school. So it is a little bit different perspective. I also saw that she's done some work with Little Panthers preschool, which we haven't mentioned yet. So I don't think we'll be lacking for NPS connections, whichever way we go. But to me, you get all of that plus. Maybe in a way, I'm really struggling here, so I have to just argue both sides.
You're doing a great job.
Well, as I look back, Jill Roberts, she said her number one vision was quality for all students. And so I think, especially through her years of all the school, being at all the schools, she knows how to grow and develop that quality for all students. I love too that she said she's open for conversation, but she's not gossipy. Because as we all know, it's really important on the board. You have so many people come up to you, kind of want to know the scoop, even though we really don't know the scoop. But I love it that she's been in that role and she knows, what it takes to listen. She said opportunities to listen, but yet at the same time to communicate.
Just a few other things that stick out to me is I really like that Leanne and Joe were instrumental in some really big success stories for Norfolk Public Schools with Leanne helping to create the NPS Achievement Center and then Joe helping to create bringing the Montessori program to life. I think those are the kind of success stories that we as a school district and Board of Education love, hearing about or one day hope to say that you had a hand in creating. I know even just with the little bit of, kind of towards my beginning on the foundation board was right towards the end of funding for the career academies or securing all the funding for it. But to say that I even spent a little fraction of the time on the foundation board that had to do with the career academies, just fills you with pride to say, maybe I helped a little bit. And so I definitely can relate to them on those two things. One other thing I noticed with Leanne is that she was appointed to a couple different positions within the Nebraska Education Association. So obviously her peers see a lot in her and put a lot of trust in her to be appointed to that. There's also a couple appointments by the governor, I believe, to some of his commissions or councils. And so I think that's one thing that we're, constantly dealing with each year is our policy and just working with government relations. And the fact that she has some experience with that is a thrill. We've got the difference between having, wide range of experience between all the different school buildings, but then Leanne has a wide range of experience between Education Association and some of the other inner committees within the board, and then Leonore's wide range of experience within the community. So,
I was going to say,
It might be.
None of that helped.
No, I just like, I don't know if anything I'm saying though is helping. I don't know if you all are set in your decisions already or if you're still battling. I'm also need to take another dose of Sudafed, so maybe that's why I can't think straight.
No, I don't think we can take a break. Nope, that's not allowed. We gotta just push on.
No, I
We've had too many breaks tonight. Should we call for nominations? Let's call for nominations. Are there nominations? What?
I will nominate Leonora Fear again, please.
I will nominate Leanne Whittle.
I'll nominate Joe Roberts.
Is there a motion? Do you remember the motion? You remember the same motion? Same motion. We have to say it.
Red Bob.
I make a motion to appoint the candidate who receives the most votes as a member of the MPS board.
Need a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Brenda and a second by Tammy. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Please vote.
Brenda Carhart,
Leanne Woodhill.
Jake Clausen,
Joe Roberts.
Tammy Day,
Leonora Fear.
Jenna Hatfield,
Leanne Woodhill.
Sandy Wolf.
Leanne Whittle.
Motion carried 3-2, Leanne Whittle.
Thank you, guys. Please come back. I hope you know that we struggle. You guys are amazing. I feel not worthy. So awesome. Congratulations, Leanne. And thank you all for coming. You're not done with the meeting, though.
No, I Tammy said this last time around. When she was appointed, it was Kathy Turner. And she was appointed and then Patty was elected right after that. So please do consider running for election. You are great, great people.
Yes, and thank you so much for doing this. It's hard to put yourself out here and say, yes, pick me, because if we're all honest, we mostly think we probably don't deserve it, right? So thank you, everyone, for just standing up here and saying you're willing to serve. So I hope to see your names on the ballot in the 2022, whatever that is. So anyway, good job, everybody. My husband always jokes that it's kind of a love fest here among the board members, but I do think everyone had wonderful, respectful comments and worked hard to find, a good decision forward. So thank you for being so thoughtful and deliberative about the whole thing.
I agree. And congratulations, Leanne.
Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And for the collaboration. That was awesome. Yeah. Okay, we are not for ourselves. No.
Twice now.
We are still going. 9.2, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the submission of the proposed ESSERS 3 grant. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Wilson, could you go to the feedback document, please? Okay. So I am not going to go through the allocation plan because we had a 4-hour board retreat where that was thoroughly discussed. And then it was also discussed at another board meeting. But what I do want to share with you is the feedback that we received from our survey, because that is an important part of this process and of the grant application. We did have 101 people respond to the survey. As you can see on the screen, 64.4% indicated that the plan was acceptable. 27.7% indicated it was not, and I'll share this reasoning 7.9% inserted a different response that was typically the plan is mostly acceptable, the plan is fine, but I would like X, Y, or Z, or most of the plan is fine, so kind of in the middle. As you dig into the written responses, there were 12 people who said the plan is good or fine. I like it the way it is. The next biggest response, we had 10 respondents who said something to the effect of Bel Air is not the only school that has space or repair needs. We're allocating too much money to that one school. And I just have some considerations that I want you to think about in regards to that. And that is, we really are working on multiple facility improvements across the district. We had a facilities plan that we shared with you as part of this that wasn't posted on the web, and I think that might have helped if those were put in conjunction with one another. Bel Air is the only one mentioned in this grant thing because it's the only one that qualifies for that ESSER 3 funding. But we do have many other projects that are being funded by QCPOP, our building fund, the depreciation fund, and those all were detailed in the post-pandemic facilities plan. And with that, I'm going to let Bill jump in quickly on that piece.
Yeah, and I think it's a good comment because I want to emphasize that we have worked very hard over the last decade to have all of our K-4 facilities be very equal as far as amenities in the type of facilities that they are. And two of them are currently under renovation right now, being Lincoln and Grant, and addressing those needs there. But we had opportunities with different funding to do that. This goes back to that history a little bit. Back in 2005, and Leon remember this, we had the bond issue we were just paying off. Part of that discussion was the issues at Bel Air Elementary in the lack of space in the multi-use room. Okay, those same comments were there that are we putting too much emphasis on the school that has the least amount of poverty? Okay, well, that ship has now sailed. That school is not par with the other schools, and we have an opportunity to address it. I'm very passionate. We need to get this to the finish line and get it done. We talk about all of our students. That includes Bel Air, and it's not a favoritism. They're not at par with Grant or Washington. Even our preschool facility, the multi-space that they have, it's not equitable, and this is an opportunity to do that. We cannot distance the students there at our largest elementary. So we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do this. It is actually in the long run helping our taxpayers because we will not come back to them for an ask on this type of project because it's built in. And we are no way circumventing or not funding the essential instructional needs that are part of this funding. In fact, we took that first place, we got everything we absolutely need, and then this came in behind that. So that's my take on it.
And I would just add, I mean, all of our elementary schools were built as two-track elementary buildings. And we have, due to increased enrollment, put 3 tracks at Bel Air. We are utilizing every bit of space available, including some closets for meeting spaces for students and hallways as meeting spaces for students. So we have capitalized on every bit of space, but we cannot accomplish the social distancing that is necessary right now at Bel Air. Moving on, we had 6 respondents who said more money should be allocated to social emotional learning or support and anti-bullying. We definitely agree that that is important. The proposed plan that we put forward does fund everything that was requested by the Transition or Learning Gap Committee in regards to academic and social emotional learning. If we determine that additional programs or supports are needed, we can amend this grant, and we anticipate there will probably be several amendments to this grant along the way because it goes through September of 24. But we could easily add in additional supports in that area and pull out some of the money that goes to Bel Air and fund that through our building fund. So we have the ability to make changes as needed. But I think everybody that worked on this felt that student learning and social emotional well-being were our first priority for the grant. 3 people said the money should be used for property tax relief. We simply cannot use the ESSER funds for property tax relief. It is not allowed. However, completing the Bel Air facilities and buying some of the additional technology pieces will offset some expenses that we would have incurred. And so in the end, it really will, in kind of a roundabout way, help with property tax relief. We just can't drop the levy because of this money. 2 people said the money should be used to purchase COVID tests for families. That would be an allowable use of ESSER funds if that was something the board wanted to pursue. But our return to in-person instruction committee did not think that we should get involved with COVID testing. They felt in regards to testing, our role was to ask families if their child had symptoms to go and be tested at that point. We had 2 people say continue free meals after the 21-22 school year, and 1 person say provide meals over the weekends. Those benefits really came from a separate, unrelated grant, and we do not know whether that will be continued or reinstated at this point. 2 people suggested we use the money for transportation. Again, that's not something that the ESSER funds can be used for. 2 people said put the money toward teacher raises and incentives. The ESSER 3 grant very specifically states that these grant funds cannot be used for that purpose. It's very explicit in there. 1 person said we need to hire more teachers so we can have smaller class sizes. Although we think smaller classes are a good thing, if we did decide to use the ESSER fund to hire additional staff, we would be put in a position where we no longer have the money in September of 2024, and so we would have to let those staff members go, which would be a very difficult situation for everybody involved. 1 person suggested we increase wages for paras and subs. Again, ESSER funds can't be used for that purpose, but we are looking at increases via district funds. We increased sub wages significantly in the last couple of years, and we're asking for para increases yet tonight. There was a question, why do we need lockers at the junior high but not at the senior high? The reason we need lockers at the junior high is because they have had to share lockers, like 2 people use the same locker, which definitely does not allow for social distancing. We already purchased enough lockers at the senior high in the last several years where that is not an issue. We actually have extra lockers at the high school that are not being used at this point because we were anticipating more enrollment growth. 1 person said we should install vape detectors. We are actually looking at the addition of vape detectors at the junior high and senior high. We recognize that vaping is an issue, but we are looking at that via district funds. It's unsure whether the ESSER funds could be used or not, and I didn't want to put anything in there that might throw us out. So we just chose to use district funds for that. 1 person said expand space at the middle school and the high school for PE. Unless social distancing is an issue, then that would not be an allowable use of ESSER funds, but it's something we could consider via a bond issue in the future if it's something that the board wanted to pursue. And 1 person said we should build a new high school. First of all, that's not an allowable expense, and second of all, this ESSER funding would not even come close to building a high school for us. We would definitely have to engage in a bond issue in order to do that. I think that there were some very thoughtful comments here, but I just really want to reiterate that the plan we put together does fund everything that that learning committee asked for. All of the academic and social and emotional learning pieces have been funded in this proposal. And right now at this time, we don't believe that there are any additional resources needed in those areas. But we do want to validate the importance of those programs and about the feedback that we received. And so what I am suggesting is that we should review this plan every 6 months, just like we are the return to in-person learning plan. And we can review it more often than that if we need, but have a guarantee that in 6 months we'll come back and look at it and say, hey, are we still meeting the social and emotional needs? Are we meeting the academic needs? Do we need to make some shifts so that we are truly making that our priority? And we did have some unrelated comments that I shared with you, but they don't really have anything to do with the decision. So they were more like a thank you or,
What I liked about this survey was it just goes to show that we really do listen to feedback. We really did read every comment, and Dr. Thompson and her committee actually thought through, oh wow, is this a valid thing we need to look at? Or, it brought us to the decision of, well, let's reevaluate this, let's bring this committee together and reevaluate it more often. But it just goes to show that there is good communication, and we really do listen to our patrons or our parents, teachers, whoever was filling out that survey. I thought that was a really positive outcome.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that I hope for all of our patrons in the district, hopefully that just brings more and more people to the table to provide comments, knowing that there was the follow through, and I appreciated, again, from my perspective, just appreciated the kind of the clarification on a couple of those things, because seemingly it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we should increase wages. What a great idea. I mean, but it's like, I think knowing the specificity of what you can and can't include is important for everybody to recognize. So thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the submission of the proposed ARP ESSERS 3 grant.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Jake. Is there any further discussion?
Just thanks to everyone who was involved in sifting through all of that. Just the grant alone, I can't imagine trying to suss out all the intricacies that are required to even apply and receive those funds, and then for considering all the ways we can help close those gaps when we do have this opportunity to access some unexpected funding. So thank you to everyone who worked on those.
Please vote electronically.
Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 9.3, discuss, consider, and take action to approve the hourly classified staff pay proposal. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Over the past several years, the district has annually made percentage increase to the base starting wages of our hourly employees using the same percentage which the certificated employees were receiving in their total package settlement. This system has traditionally kept us competitive compared to other local employers in the area. As directed health measures expired and the economy began to open back up to its pre-pandemic status, employers quickly started seeing staff shortages. So to counter that, many employers have raised their base wages to $15 or more per hour. This has become very common in our community and has put our district in a situation where we are not able to fill positions or keep people because of our current compensation structure. It is recommended that we add $2.54 to the base wages of all of our hourly positions in the district. Appendix A gives you the current starting wages, and Appendix B gives you what that would look like if approved here this evening. We are also recommending that $2.54 increase be given to all of our existing employees' hourly rates. This recognizes the experience these employees have, also treating everyone equally in this proposal. We anticipate this will prevent many of our current staff from possibly looking to other employers, but also increase the quantity and quality of our applicant pool for openings. This cost has been included in the 21-22 budget, and if approved, the new wages would start September 19th. Why September 19th? That coincides with our next payroll period. So we know the cost of this. In our COLT meeting, we had to do something. Dr. Thompson asked me to give an estimate of what that would be, and I don't take that lightly. I know. But like with our staff settlements, I always say it's the biggest fiscal decision and the most important one you make. Our classified staff are critical to everything we do in our district. I feel strongly we need to do this. We have a budget for it, and I ask for a motion for approval on this.
And I just want to reiterate that, we put Dr. Robinson around to this slightly, we know it's a huge ask. It's going to cost us about $1 million a year to give our hourly classified staff this raise. But we simply are not able to attract quality people, or in some cases, any people to our positions because our pay is too low. And that's also not the message that we want to give our classified groups. They are good, hardworking people that do great things for kids, and they need to see that they are valued as well. So I agree, and I am asking you to please consider this $2.54 an hour raise for our hourly classified staff.
I really believe in this raise. Number one, we have the money to do it. I mean, we've got cash to do it. Number two, it's all about the students. And unless we can get people in there to teach, to help, to serve our students, that's what we're here for. We need to get people in the classrooms, and this helps. It helps the teachers, it helps our cooks, I mean, throughout the school. It needs to be done.
Yeah, well said. I agree. I would make a motion to approve the hourly classified staff pay proposal.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion by Jake and a Jenna, and a second by Jenna. Is there further discussion? I was actually in a meeting, sitting next to a man when Dr. Thompson sent out the email, first to know, and just said, I'm going to bring this to the board, but we hope to do this. And he got a message from his wife saying, wow, we just got a raise, she works so hard, and he went on, and I said, I know she works hard, and he said, it is so great that you are recognizing that. So I think it's more than the money. I think it's the fact that we're saying, wow, you are with our children every day. You are so important. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And Jenna, I think, made the point in our meeting a few weeks ago that I thought was really right on when she said, you know, once the playing field is level, then all the great things that NPS provides comes forward. You know, if you're not even in the conversation because you're not at a level playing field, then you don't get the chance to show all these other great things. So I'm glad this will level the playing field, and I'm excited about that too.
Please vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. 9.4, discuss, consider, and take action to reaffirm board policies. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. Truly, only very minor, non-substantive changes were made to these policies. There were some grammatical errors and formatting that we fixed. Otherwise, nothing meaningful has been changed. So the committee is recommending that they be reaffirmed, which means they don't even need to come back for second reading.
Except, this says suspend, reaffirm on the foreign exchange, so what does that mean?
Oh, that just means that right now, we are not accepting any foreign exchange students during this school year, but this will go back in effect for next school year.
We suspended it during COVID.
Last year. And it's really past the deadline where we accept foreign exchange students now anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant.
Even if we approved it, it's still.
I would make a motion to reaffirm the board policies 5001 to 5012 related to students.
A second. We have a motion by Jenna and a second by Tammy. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you, Mary. Well, my friends, that brings us to the end of our meeting. The second monthly meeting of the Board of Education will be held at 12 noon on Thursday, September 23rd. Did you think we needed that, Ginger?
I am not certain at this point, so let's just
Keep it on your calendar, but we may not have it. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education, where Leanne Whitcomb will be sworn in, will be held on Monday, October 11th, 2021. Study sessions will resume and begin at 5:30 p.m. The regular business meeting will start at 6:30 p.m. All components of these meetings will be held at the Norfolk Public Schools Central Administration Offices
and will be open to the public unless an executive session is needed in order to protect the interest of the district or the reputation of an individual. Meeting adjourned.
Doesn't matter what presenting, because whoever does most of the stuff.
Thanks for letting me know that. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I would hit in for you, but I never